Isn't this a sports show?
I don't know. Okay.
Things get weird over here.
Yeah, it's true.
Almost entirely.
Chad, I can only imagine in response to us singing the Bananas in Pajamas theme song, said there's a reason other shows don't do it. It's a sports show. Or at least I thought it was.
Well, that was your first mistake. It's almost entirely sports.
That's the name of the show!
This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
I'm pretty sure there's always going to be somebody we're better than and somebody we're worse than.
Take the show with you by listening on the Sports Radio 810 mobile app at 810WHB.com or by searching for Almost Entirely Sports wherever you get your podcasts.
You either listen to the show because you really like the Chiefs or because you really hate sports radio. And I am super cool with either of those reasons.
This is Almost Entirely Sports on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
We got a jam-packed 3 hours for you here tonight on Almost Entirely Sports. I'm Joshua Brisco, alongside Rudy Salazar and Beards McFly, and we're going to run 3 guests deep tonight over a whole series of various things. We'll close out the week with Mich Shaffer of 41 Action News. We haven't been able to talk to him in a while because he was enjoying the summer of Mick, just out here having some 3-day weekends, traveling around a little bit, whatever it is that he does. We'll catch up with him and close out the week with an hour with Mick at the end of tonight's show. At 8 o'clock, we'll be joined by a new guest to Almost Entirely Sports. We'll talk to Jonathan Von Tobel, a senior NBA analyst for VSiN. That's VSiN. You've probably seen the acronym, but to be honest, I wasn't 100% sure how to pronounce it until today, and now I know. He's the host of the Hardwood Handicappers podcast. We're going to talk about some of the things going on in the NBA with him tonight, and there's just a bleep ton going on. But the playoffs, all these coaching changes, we're going to get to Beards' Celtics once again, trying to steal the spotlight from actually good teams who are playing playoff games right now. Sorry, Beards. That was unnecessary. Just a sideswipe that you didn't. It is kind of weird to have a relatively large trade happen while the playoffs are still going on, though, right? Okay, I'm glad that hadn't really struck me until now, but like 2 names that every casual NBA fan at least knows a little bit, getting traded for each other with some cap and with some salary and draft additions in there as well. That's kind of bonkers for a thing to be happening while the playoffs are still not even wrapping up. Like, we've still got a couple series to finish before we even get to the conference final. So that happened today. We'll talk to Jonathan Von Tobel whenever we get to the 8 o'clock hour in about an hour. And in about 20 minutes, we're going to talk to our friend Matt Verderame. A little short Friday with Matt, but there was something in particular that I think he's excited to, or at least revved up to talk about. I don't know if it's excitement per se, but it is something that we'll discuss with Matt. And to be honest, we probably won't discuss it before that, and maybe not after that, but we will talk about it with Matt. Can I complain about...
No.
Can I complain about baseball really quick? I just saw this because it got retweeted by @PitchingNinja on Twitter.
I've seen this now too, yes.
So if you don't know, you probably do, but if you don't know, Pitching Ninja is legitimately one of the best baseball Twitter accounts that exists. You can go see for yourself what they do. In the actual account is run by a man named Rob Friedman. I think it's pronounced Friedman. If not, then I'm accidentally being just as disrespectful as Whit Merrifield. But I'm not trying to be. So it's one of the coolest Twitter accounts in baseball Twitter because it ends up featuring a whole bunch of pitchers, not just the same 5 guys or whatever. I mean, he was tweeting about Josh Staumont. I think his first couple tweets about him might have been a couple years ago. But he grabs these video clips and GIFs of pitchers throwing nasty pitches. Mm-hmm. That's kind of the Twitter account. Then you get the ones that are overlaid so you can see exactly how similar pitches look until they're halfway home. You can see the release. Jacob deGrom's release point is identical for every pitch all of the time. It's totally bonkers, totally stunning. And seeing it this way, for me, has made me more appreciative of some of the nastiest stuff in baseball, where he tweets very frequently, just tweet out a clip, and then either he or everyone in the replies will tweet that hitting a baseball is impossible. The fact that anyone does it, even, 28% of the time hitting a nice 280 is a miracle because baseball is so nuts in that regard. Pitching is impossibly difficult, but once you do it well, hitting is even more impossible. It's impossibler. It's
a hard sport to play.
And it's never on a TV broadcast, on ESPN or FS1 or anything, is it better illustrated, at least for me, being the audience member that I am, a very online one and a verified one, thanks for asking. This is the best place for me to appreciate how mother bleeping good pitchers are. It's just simply possible.
While also still at times not being that good, right? Like pitchers who are not that good necessarily are throwing pitches that obviously not consistently, but at times that are just impossible to hit.
That's so my favorite examples of it, I think, are those pitches that are perfectly overlaid, where you can see it's almost an identical wind-up delivery release point, and the ball is for the first halfway down towards plate.
It's just moving along its pain.
You can just see basically it's two. The two balls are basically one. It's a Venn diagram with very little separation, and then at some point, partway through, one of those balls will go straight down to the upper inside corner. It's a nice little fastball on a rope. And the other one drops off, and it digs a tunnel down through the grass and then pops back up again like a special pitch in Super Mario Baseball. You go, wait a second, how does a human being make a baseball do that, and also do it that late in the pitch, that much late-breaking movement, and it also looks exactly like a 96-mile-an-hour fastball up and in, but it turns out somehow it was 87 down and away. How does that happen? I don't know. But seeing it in the Pitching Ninja Twitter account, it's just a great resource. Well, Pitching Ninja did tweet out a screenshot that earlier today that I just saw as the show was starting. A story from Lynn Worthy of the Kansas City Star talking to the Royals about the sticky tack stuff and the spider tack, and we'll probably get into that a little bit more here in a second. That might be where we actually start the show today. Derailing a plan just perfectly. And so there are some quotes here from Whit Merrifield in Lynn's story about all of this, talking about the foreign substances and rotations on pitched balls and hit by pitch ratio and all of this stuff. And then here's a couple quotes from Whit that just sort of bum me out. I don't know how much plays into the substance part, but I think teams are rewarding guys, and the media is in that aspect is too, Merrifield said. There's a whole Twitter account based solely on nasty pitches, the Pitching Ninja or whatever. All he wants to show is nasty pitches, so guys are hoping to rip sliders as hard as they can, throw fastballs as hard as they can, and hope that their stuff is elite enough to where they can get away with mistakes and not worry so much about commanding balls. That's a dangerous place to be as a hitter. I understand the full context there. It's not the worst thing in the world. Like, for a hitter, I understand, you don't want to get plunked and everything. Mm-hmm. But as a relatively young baseball fan, which is, and at least on a baseball scale, I'm an infant. As a relatively young baseball fan who does not have a traditional way to get my local baseball team's games on a screen that I can look at, that has to struggle through MLB.TV and a VPN, where the VPN does its job and MLB.TV just simply fails to produce any games frequently. Had to clear all my cookies last time I tried to watch baseball on my computer.
MLB's not great at doing their job. We know this.
It's so frustrating. And then so if you give me an opportunity to see highlights in a way that I want to see them, in some ways it's like criticizing or having DMCA takedowns or whatever or copyright takedowns of highlights that get posted on Twitter, or whenever somebody like Seth tweets out a specific play so you can tweet about it and then pull it into a story and then write about it and all of that. That is a way that an entire audience for all sports can fall in love with your sport, appreciate the technical excellence that comes with your sport. To fight that or to resent that is ridiculous. If Whit Merrifield make some incredible play in the outfield or from second base or whatever, the best thing for him would be for that clip to blow up on the internet. So everybody, it is a weird world to be in. And I'm not really, this is more macro than specifically taking a shot at Whit. But that's something that we ought to be specifically elevating. Saying, hey, actually having more of this would be great. And baseball's just, in a terrible place. I mean, it just seems like it's a mess, where it seems like the people that you want to celebrate the game are the ones who are mostly criticizing it, and the actual structure of the game itself can be kind of plodding. But even then, like, if you just accepted it as sort of a leisurely background activity, then maybe there's a space for people's hearts for that, and there is. I know that to be true. And just railing against things that are working is just about the silliest way I think baseball can go about all of this. So I literally saw that as the intro was playing today, and that's inherently baseball.
Yeah, that's inherently baseball. Baseball likes it, and Witt's a bit of. I mean, Witt's kind of got that old school, personality, right?
Yeah.
Like I think like something tells me Whit Merrifield not a huge fan of social media and to begin with.
Yeah, for
right.
sure.
Like he's just kind of an old school guy, and we see so much of this. I mean, and I'm not out here be like, hey, Mike Trout should fake the type of person he is and make himself more, sociable so that he's more, known and whatnot. Be who you are, but like baseball just has a problem of marketing their best players and marketing the fun aspects of their game. Because sometimes when you do the fun aspects of your game, like Fernando Tatis Jr.,
right,
your own manager isn't necessarily backing you.
Yep.
Or like with the White Sox, when your guy swings on a 3-0 pitch, he's happy when he gets thrown at the next day, right? Like baseball just has a problem. Now, good news is, I don't know, I'm sure you saw this. We got Shohei in the home run derby.
I did see that,
and I don't remember the last time I was like this hyped for a home run derby.
2009 or something.
I'm guessing for me, I was at the 2012 home run derby, so it was probably that just because I was there, right?
Yeah.
And like watching and being a part of the booing of Robinson Cano was very fun. It was very fun. I thought it was one of those deals where I'm like, you know what? I don't blame Robinson Cano for not picking Billy Butler, but also let's do this. Boo, Robinson Cano.
That's so good.
It didn't bother me, but I was like, I'm gonna boo. I'm here. Let's do this.
I'm just out here. So
I'm excited. I hope he throws to himself. That's what I'm wanting to see happen.
He's like Looney Tunes.
He's got to throw to somebody. I want to see him being the pitcher for at least one of the other hitters.
Trout, I think, is supposed to be getting healthy shortly around that time.
If he was in it and Shohei got a throw to him while also swinging, it'd be so good.
I also have to admit to both of you guys that to this point, I did not have the chat open for anything in terms of any of the. Okay, great.
You're good.
I wasn't sure if there's anything that we needed to try to.
I mean, Logan on Facebook. I shouldn't say nobody.
I knew for a fact there's at least a Facebook comment that I just wanted to make sure I was missing.
Yeah.
But what's Logan got?
It's a different one. This is the second one. Logan says Seaboard. I think he meant Seabolt. Assuming just autocorrect got him. Happens to the best.
Happens to the best of us.
Seabolt is asking how to be verified on Twitter.
Yes.
Josh, I think you need to teach him your ways.
What he needs to do is to wear that very colorful striped shirt that I was wearing a couple days. I think like the day before my verification came through. I think Twitter saw the pictures that I posted of myself wearing that shirt,
and they were just like, "Whoa!"
And they were like, "Well, this guy's clearly he needs all this guy needs now is a blue check mark."
Is obviously an influencer.
Clearly,
he is a fashion model.
Clearly,
it just so happens you also work in the in a sports industry, so being like verified is beneficial, but they weren't verifying you for any sports take. It was fashion model / influencer.
Yeah, that's actually that is the way that I went through it in the verification application process. You can do like sports team or like journalist or something like I there was something like I don't know, public figure or something. What you might have thought is that I would go to whatever
Basically
some sort of
a president.
Basically the president. You would think that I would do something in the journalism, media. I think it was a media one because I don't think I ended up. I think I'm less a journalist than I am a rodeo clown.
Yeah, that checks out.
I wanted to make sure that Beards had a chance to mark that just because he's running around right now. Is everything okay?
Yeah, we're good.
Whenever the back line lights up and you go, I'll be right back. I get nervous that there's a small electrical fire somewhere near us.
Nope, we're good.
Excellent.
All good.
True professional.
Doesn't sound like we're good.
Mostly professional.
But I had that, I just went through and was like, should you be verified? I just clicked influencer, and then I just sent them several Instagram posts of mine, and then it was almost immediate. They actually called me, and said, "Mr. Brisco, we're so sorry that it took this long to verify. Here's your blue check mark." I said, "Thank you very much." Jack from Twitter called me personally. It was really weird.
What appreciative.
Yeah, I think it was really just sort of him, wanting to make sure that I was fully
your needs
not going to hold a grudge, that my needs had been met. Absolutely.
That's what a good leader of a company does.
There is a little spinoff of what we were just talking about to some extent, and we just haven't gotten to it yet in the way that today's show is going to go. I'm guessing we're not going to have a whole lot of time to dig into all the details. But I did want to spend at least a second on the whole Major League Baseball cutting down on the sticky stuff, new crusade that they're on. And the most interesting parts of this for me have come from Trevor Bauer and Tyler Glasnow. Glasnow has, I think it's a UCL injury. Yes. A pitcher just went to the IL. And right after his injury, if you don't, you should know at this point, but there's the spider tack, there's the sunscreen, there's all of these things that pitchers have used to try to get a little more tacky feeling on a baseball so they get better grip and all of that. We talked about with Lesky at one point how much I think Bauer's rotations per whatever
spin rate jumped
his spin
up.
rate has exploded. The interesting parts about it are where Glasnow says, "I just threw 80-something innings and you just told me I can't use anything. I have to change everything. I truly believe 100%. That's why I got hurt. I'm frustrated MLB doesn't understand. You can't just tell us to use nothing. It's crazy." And I've seen a lot of responses to this, and I think they're all in their own way kind of valid and kind of valuable. Where you say, well, wait a second. They told you can't cheat anymore, and now you're blaming them for enforcing the rules. Like, I have no sympathy for you. I totally understand where that comes from, but I thought of an analogy that I think sticks at least a little bit. If starting tomorrow...
Like sticky tack?
Yes. Yes. If starting tomorrow, and maybe there's a memo that goes out, but if you are caught going 1 mile per hour over the speed limit, you will get pulled over. You could be ticketed. 1 mile an hour over the speed limit, that is now in effect starting tomorrow in this fictional world. If I got pulled over driving 2 miles over the speed limit tomorrow, I'd be pretty PO'd. I would be pretty annoyed to get an $80 ticket or whatever because I was doing 67 in a 65 on the highway. That would piss me off a little bit because that's not how the rules are currently enforced.
Yeah.
My entire life driving, the rule of thumb is sort of like 5 over is the left lane. Mm-hmm. If you're going 10 over, you're getting into a little danger zone. If you're going 20, 25, you get radar, you're getting pulled over. But for me,
19 or less. Once you hit 20, that's when real penalties kick in.
I typically try to keep it
I just go
10.
5. I just go like 5 on the dot because it's just like it's safe. I never have to worry. I've just learned through experiences here. 19 is like 20 or more, and technically you could end up in jail.
Right. I think
Not that they're going to take you to jail.
20 might be the felony.
Just that they could. So 19 or less, you're good.
And so with the sort of like 1 mile an hour over the speed limit, I just realized I just understood some past pretense from your learning about this. It's not like bad.
It's
just that Petro knows this.
Everybody
and so he tells
knows.
us this.
Yes.
Yeah.
And everybody knows Petro drives fast. He talks about it. People talk about it. It's not
the way you were saying it was like, did somebody do something
really
bad?
No. Yeah.
Did somebody get arrested for speeding? And I don't think Petro ever has. If he has, it would be a surprise to me.
No, he's fine.
But he knows the system.
Exactly.
He knows the numbers.
He knows the system,
math.
and he plays the system efficiently.
So I think just saying Soren drives fast is better than what I was thinking, which was, man, did someone get arrested?
No, nobody's been arrested. At least not for this.
And at least not as far as we know.
As far as we know.
But that is the analogy for me, did make a little bit of difference in how I was thinking about it. That being able to phase down the rules, and the issue is that if the government decided to crack down on speeding that way, they would be partially to blame for decades of not really enforcing the speed limit this way. They enforce it in this like common law sort of way that we all know. Mm-hmm. Baseball is known that there's sticky tack and pine tar and sunscreen and all of this on people's caps and necks and arms and all this and gloves, but they haven't enforced it aggressively in any sense So now we're here. And so to say we're going to go from 0 to 100 in terms of enforcement, I do think there's a little bit of a gripe to be had there. But that's where the game's at this point. And baseball screwing that up is not not terribly surprising.
Did you see the picture I think that Trevor Bauer posted out of like basically rosin and sunscreen, or like it might have even just been rosin and like sweat? How basically he's got the ball is just sticking to his hand, to an open palm. It's just showing how sticky even like the most basic substances.
Oh, yep. In the video, I just saw it just now. Yeah.
I can't remember if it's sweat and rosin or if it's sunscreen and rosin, but it's one of those two. He
was at a poll question of, is that a legal or illegal
is this cheating
thing
or not? And everybody goes
sweat and rosin.
Okay, yeah, and everybody's basically like, it is cheating, obviously. Look at the ball sticking to your hand.
Right.
And then it's like, oh, psych. It's not.
But also, if that was so easy, why wouldn't everyone just use the rosin bag and then sweat? I feel like that's probably fine, right?
Yeah, and so like that was the thing with Tyler Glasnow, right? It's like, well, you didn't necessarily have to go cold turkey. You could have used sweat and rosin, but also like, I don't know.
If you're doing a little chemistry project on the mound, that also probably is a little bit outside of the spirit of the rule.
Glasnow's young enough too that like honestly, sweat and rosin might be a thing that he's just never really seen before, because in his entire professional career,
he's got spider tack. He's got spider tack in the clubhouse.
Yeah, I keep saying sticky tack. It's spider tack. Sticky tack's that little like putty stuff
that you put stuff on dorm walls.
Also, that's legal in baseball.
And also, you can just cover baseball in it, and then if they make contact, they'll just stick to the bat. Let's take a break. Whenever we come back, a quick conversation with Matt Verderame. He's got something he'd like to get off his chest. That's next.
Want more Almost Entirely Sports? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 Facebook page.
Hey, Kansas City, Steven.
This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
I'm scrolling through. It's like 6 o'clock Friday night, and I get Daniel Craig, ladies and gentlemen, the weekend. And it's like, you know what, Daniel? Damn right.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Nearly the weekend for us, maybe already the weekend for you. Matt Verderame of FanSided joins us now. You can follow him on Twitter at Matt Verderame. You can check out the Stack in the Box podcast, the column, everything he does there at Matt Verderame on Twitter is the way to go. And the story of the day today, Matt, is, one of the stupidest ones and maybe the most frustrating one, and something that I feel like you probably would like to discuss.
Well, yeah, everybody's talking about Cole Beasley and his as he put it, his public service announcement, which I would argue what he put out was the exact opposite of a public service announcement. It was more of a disservice to the public announcement. But
yes.
I got to tell you, I'm pretty familiar with the Bills and their PR staff. Now, actually, really, one of the best organizations to work with. Mm. They must be ripping their hair out of their head as this is going on. Like, I actually feel bad for the people in charge of that I know that have done such a good job. And as far as Beasley goes, look, you know what? Everybody loves to have this platitude of like, well, it's my choice. Okay, it can be your choice. Your choice is stupid. Like, at some point, your choice is just ignorant. Now, look, if you don't want to get vaccinated because you just feel, hey, you know what, I have an autoimmune situation or some kind of medical issue, that's an entirely different story.
Totally different.
Okay, that's a completely different ballgame. If you're Cole Beasley and you're like, I'm not going to get vaccinated because I just don't care, and if you don't want to get sick and you're around me, then you get vaccinated. Okay, fine, right? Like, okay, so in full disclosure, am vaccinated. I could, yes, theoretically, be next to Cole Beasley if you had COVID or if anybody had COVID, and I should not get sick. But that's not the point, really, is it? Like, if you are someone who doesn't get vaccinated, you're around somebody who might have that autoimmune disease, and you have COVID, maybe you know it or you don't know it, like, you could pass it on to that person could get really sick, they could die. The point of all this is, Cole Beasley's statement is one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. Like, it rambles on for, I don't know, two pages worth, 2 images worth, and he's just talking about all these things about how he's just not going to get back. There's not one bit of logic in any of it. It is, I'm not going to do it. I'll retire first. Okay, good. Then have at it. Because this season, for any player who doesn't get vaccinated, is going to be a living hell.
Yeah.
So enjoy it. Have fun. This isn't going to be like last year where it was a living hell for everybody. It's going to be a living hell for you and the 20 guys who don't get vaccinated on the team. And I do not understand it. I don't get the logic. I guess I don't have to, but it's his choice, and it's my choice to say that he's an idiot.
The specifics of the Notes app post is infuriating because they're basically around all of the fat around this, right? That gets trimmed down of I want to live my life the way I want to live my life. It gets the very Matthew McConaughey sort of parts of it, the parts you could read in his voice. Like, I just want to do what's best for me and my family. All that stuff are just those platitudes, right? It's just sort of a bunch of pleasantries that are very difficult to disagree with those in a vacuum. When you get to the specific things he's actually saying, and this is something that I wish in media we would be a little better at whenever a player says, I'm choosing not to get vaccinated because I have concerns. I would love to just every once in a while get a follow-up of, could you please tell me a list of your concerns and what those come from? Because he says, I'm not going to get treatment for a broken leg if my leg isn't broken, and then talks about wanting to build up his immune system when at the most basic scientific level is not what we're talking about here. Because first of all, you do things to keep your body right all the time. The vaccine is not treating COVID, it's preventing COVID, which if he followed Montez Sweat's week, he could have learned. He also could have learned all of this at any point, and probably has and doesn't give a bleep. But beyond that, the immune system building is what comes with the vaccine, is it makes your immune system ready to deal with it if it gets in your body, which is why nobody is living in an iron lung right now.
Again, look, I'll try to be more nuanced than just saying that I think he's an idiot, even though I think that pretty much sums up my feelings toward this. But look, the idea that it's perfectly fine, if you're healthy enough to get the vaccine, that it's just fine for you not to get it and not to care is nonsense. Mm-hmm. And I don't care. People love to say, well, it's my business. Okay, right. if you're Joe Blow on the street, you're right. I'm not going to go up to you and ask you if you're vaccinated. Guess what? You're Cole Beasley. You're an NFL player. You're damn right it's everybody's business who covers that league.
Yeah.
If you've gotten vaccinated or not. And you don't have to answer. You can politely decline. Fine, you're basically answering by doing that.
Mm-hmm.
But you can politely decline. You have every right, and no media member should badger the guy over that. I will back that 100%. But guess what? It does matter. And you know why it matters? Because in Week 16, if Buffalo's pushing for a playoff spot, and old Cole comes down with COVID, and it gives it to 9 guys on the team, it matters now, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Now it does matter. Now it's a football story.
Yeah.
And as far as, by the way, the complete hypocrisy. Oh, if I had a broken leg, this and that. He did have a broken leg last year.
Yeah.
He broke his leg at the end of the season.
Yep.
And I'd love for the Bills training staff to come out and go, yeah, look, he just refused treatment.
Yeah.
Oh, I bet he was getting round-the-clock treatment.
Or if he could have gotten a vaccine that would have prevented broken legs, I bet he would have would have been a good vaccine to get.
It's just the whole thing. Look, just say it. Just say I'm either completely ignorant to the science and I refuse to learn it, or I don't care. I just don't care. I'm selfish. I'm completely self-involved. I don't care if I give it to somebody if I get it. And I think it's on everybody else to get vaccinated around me. And if I get it, then I shouldn't be able to give it to anybody because they got the shot. And if they didn't get the shot, well then oops, well too bad. What that doesn't factor in is if you're around somebody. Now I have no idea if there's anybody on the Bills who's autoimmune conference. I have no idea. What if there is? What if there is?
Yeah.
And he just doesn't care and gives it to that person. That person ends up getting really sick. And for all these bros out there are like, well, it's impossible. Nobody would get seriously sick who's healthy and young. First of all, not true. Second of all, there was a player in the NFL last year who played for Jacksonville who almost died from it.
Yeah.
So this idea that, like, well, it's fine because they're all pro football players is a joke. It's not true. Yes, they're far more unlikely to die from it than someone who's 90 and gets it.
Sure.
But I got to tell you, if you're the person who's autoimmune compromised, you don't really care about those odds too much now, do you? You just don't want to get it.
And Myles Garrett, whose body would make Captain America blush, got COVID and talked about dealing with the effects of that months after the fact, which is again, but like this is, and these are all things that like you and I are telling each other and hoping that people listening are also hearing. But at this point, man, if you are Cole Beasley and you go, I didn't know Myles Garrett had it, it's an impossibility, which is why I think it's much more likely that in your situation it's probably the latter, where it's simply, I don't really care. The other thing is that the vaccines are incredibly effective on a scientific and percentage level, but as a Suns fan who is panicked about Chris Paul right now, I can tell you once again, they are not 100% effective. Whenever vaccines are 100% effective, it's whenever there's nowhere for the virus to live anymore, whenever everybody's gotten it, which is, again, why polio isn't just sort of roaming around flu season. It's still something you can do it for yourself, but it also, every single person that's getting vaccinated is helping to protect the people that they interact with. And the idea that anyone doesn't understand that at this point is disheartening.
To take it to a football, that's one word for it.
Yeah.
To take it to a football conversation beyond what it already is, look, here's a real-world way this is going to affect teams. Okay, and I'm going to write my whole Stack and Box column, which goes on Monday morning on FanSided. I'm going to write it all on how the vaccine and whether or not guys get it, how it's going to impact the league. I talked to 3 different sources around the league, all agents, and one told me it's been a major problem for me. It's been a major issue to get my guys vaccinated. Then I talked to another who said, hey, look, this is going to be a situation where there are absolutely guys, and if it comes down to it, and they're on the roster's edge, and one's vaccinated and one's not, that guy who's unvaccinated, he's getting cut. They may not come out and say that. They're not going to come out and say it, but he's like, of course they would. You're taking less risk.
Yeah.
Of course that's what you would do. And obviously, anyone with a brain knows if a guy's not vaccinated but he's a star player, I mean, you're going to keep that player. But if it comes down to a guy who's back into the roster, hey, that's part of the deal. And you know what? I don't feel one bit bad for any of those guys. Again, unless they cannot get vaccinated for a medical reason. If you're somebody like Cole Beasley and you're a back end of the roster type, that's your problem.
Yeah.
So that was a risk you were willing to take. Apparently, as Cole's willing to take, and we'll see how things play out. But I do think, look, this is going to be a huge advantage for teams who are vaccinated this year. It's going to be a huge advantage Because you're going to have – there's going to be a couple times this year. I'm not saying every week, but it'll happen a few times where guys are going to miss games in groups of 4 or 5 guys because of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're one of these teams that's sitting there, 55% vaccinated, you got a problem.
Yeah.
Like, you've got to – the NFL is not going to care this year. Like last year, they moved games like crazy. We were playing games on Tuesday night.
Mm-hmm.
They are not going to do that this year. The NFL is going to say, you know what? You chose this. That's your problem. So if you got to start your punter as your quarterback, oops, guess you're losing this week.
Yeah.
And I gotta think, you're gonna have the other thing that factors in here too. Seriously, you're gonna have a lot of players. Like let's say you're a team. Let's just say it's an 80-20 split, vaccinated, unvaccinated. If you have a situation where that 20% causes you to lose a game because you're missing 8 guys, you're gonna have a major chasm in the locker room. You're gonna have guys who are pissed.
Yeah.
Well, like we just lost this game. We might miss the playoffs. We might lose the division, whatever the case may be. We might miss out on our playoff bonuses because you wouldn't get vaccinated, and we had to play with 8 guys this weekend. That's going to be a big thing. You're going to have, and then of course the memo came out where all these guys are so split apart from guys who are vaccinated.
Yeah.
Like whether or not, if you're out there listening and you disagree with us, that's fine. But just know this is going to be a big, big part of the season this year. It is. And anyone in the NFL will tell you that.
So two quick things off of that. One is you mentioned kind of the back of the roster guys. My first, as someone who has consistently used this particular platform to tell people they should absolutely get vaccinated, I even sort of cringe a little bit at the idea of somebody making any like medical choice, whatever, that ends up costing them their job. Like I don't like that in theory. In practice here, though, Trey Smith was a 6th round pick because of his blood and his lungs. Players get cut because they're seen as being more of an injury risk than anybody else, than whoever their competition is. That's a part of the equation all the time. This is a voluntary injury risk, unavailability risk if you're not getting vaccinated at this point. So that's one thing that I just wanted to at least mention. Because I don't like that idea of that being something that plays into if someone has their job or not, but it's a choice that can be made. It would be like making the choice to not work out during the offseason. You're also now at an availability risk. But so that's one thing. The other thing is you mentioned that memo and the new things that the NFL and the NFLPA have agreed to and how split the vaccinated and unvaccinated protocols will be for vaccinated and unvaccinated players. I mean, I've seen a lot of people talk about how, hey, once these start being used, once we get to training camp and unvaccinated players are wearing masks and still wearing masks and having to eat in separate facilities or whatever, they think that there's going to be a next wave of guys getting vaccinated. Are you optimistic about that? And how do you think that's all going to play into what comes next?
I am. I think that is going to be a big thing. A big thing. Because, look, these guys, if you read down that memo, we won't sit here and go over all of it, but that is draconian really as it gets.
Yeah.
The NFL and NFLPA could have saved time, and instead of putting out that memo, could have just put out in 30-inch headlines, get vaccinated.
Mm-hmm.
Because the one thing that really matters about that last sentence, it's not just the NFL, it's the NFLPA. The NFLPA, they agree to all this stuff.
Yeah.
So you are putting these guys in a position, they can't go run to the union and complain about it. The union's on board. And now you have this situation where these teams, look, the teams have gone out of their way to try to encourage people to get vaccinated, to educate them on getting vaccinated. Like, you're going to have a situation where at some point, and by the way, I agree with you. I don't want to see anybody lose their job over that. I really don't. But at the same point, you know that if you don't get vaccinated, you're a player like that, you're at a bigger risk of getting cut.
Yeah.
Like, I have no sympathy for you at this point. You know that that's the way it goes. I know if FanSided came to me and said, look, if you don't get vaccinated and you cause an outbreak in the office, like, it's your rear end. I'd be like, I'll probably go get vaccinated then.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, come on now.
Yeah.
What are we talking about? Like, at some point, your reality is on you.
Yeah.
And I think it is going to be interesting. You are going to have a situation where these teams, they're doing everything they can. I do think training camp, when these guys have to be in there day in and day out, and all their buddies are hanging out and playing basketball in the locker room and screwing around and laughing, and it's back to what it was a couple of years ago. And they're like, hey, by the way, we need a nasal swab from you for the third time in 70 hours, and we're going to need you to sit behind plexiglass, and you can't go to the meeting. Oh, and by the way, when everybody's playing cards on the plane and having a good old time going cross country, yeah, you're going to be in a plane of 8 guys. And that's just the way it's going to be. And, everybody's going out to dinner tonight in New York. Well, you're not.
Yeah.
You can get room service. I mean, look, maybe there are a handful of people who will just, apparently Cole Beasley will just stick to it and fine. I think most guys are going to go, fine, whatever, just give me the shot so I don't have to deal with this anymore.
I think if more people had that attitude, I think we'd probably be in a little better place. Matt, no, we got to let you go. Thank you for making a little time for us early here tonight. And ladies and gentlemen, in the weekend.
Beautiful.
Follow him on Twitter, at Matt Verderame. I am very excited to see the Stack in the Box column on Monday because I think there's going to be some great stuff in there. So you can get ready for that on fansided.com. We will take a break. Whenever we come back, I'm going to just read a simple, non-sports related, feel-good story that's going to give everybody a little bit of serotonin, and then we'll see where we go from there. But I'm promising you just something simple and non-aggressive and it's not going to bring the world together like two crashing rams bashing their heads together at the top of a mountain, which is what pretty much all of the world feels like all of the time. Whenever we come back, just a good story about a dog.
At JB Brisco, at Beards McFly, at Not That Rudy, at Sports Radio 810. Just do it already. This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
It is 6:27 on a Friday. Let's be bad.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
I've promised just a feel-good palate cleanser here. I'm going to provide that momentarily. We'll do some NBA next hour. We'll talk to Mich Shaffer to close out the week in the last hour of tonight's show. Got lots of good stuff. Thanks again to Matt Verderame for joining us as well. Right now, I would like to read you a story where I will admit
about politics.
I would like to, and this is why.
This is why puppies aren't cute.
I will admit that the visuals here are an important element, but I'm going to do my best to sort of bring it to you in audio form, and I will make sure that I retweet the relevant materials here so you can watch along.
And now, Josh reads the internet.
Stray pup in KC sheds 7 pounds of matted fur and finds a ton of internet love. Beards, I'm going to say a couple words
Was that
here.
dog from Kansas City?
Yeah. KC Pet Project.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Is it the?
I'm gonna read you some details.
Do you already retweet it?
I don't think I have.
You read the story. I'll ask my question after, because maybe the story will answer my question.
Yeah, Beards. Let me. Here's what I'll do. I'm retweeting the. It looks like Chewbacca had the worst day ever. And
I
it's a
did see this
small
video. I saw
dog.
it on Reddit. I didn't know that was Kansas City.
It was KC Pet Project, so I'll get more to that in a second. It looks like its head looks like some just like very messy sort of dreads, but like it's it's obviously far too long for a dog, but it's not good. But then behind it, it looks like it's basically got some moldy hams for legs, even though this dog has some sweet little paws. The first picture, what I just retweeted from KC Pet Project, is so funny because it looks like a horror movie alien zombie dog, but it also looks so happy underneath it with its little tongue hanging out. It's so good. Anyway, none of this was me actually reading. This Beards, here's my warning for you. You do not need the dump button, but it's sort of, whenever we talk about that show from Canada that I enjoy, Schitt's Creek, that's fine. It's spelled in a way that is not profane. I'm now going to read the internet. A stray Shih Tzu in Kansas City, Missouri is walking a little lighter today thanks to the loving help of a veterinary team at the KC Pet Project. Simon soon went viral after a video showed how the team removed pounds, that's plural, of fur from the poor pup's body. This 11-year-old Shih Tzu came to KC Pet Project in Kansas City, Missouri as a stray, and he's one of the worst matted cases we've ever seen, the post said. We can only guess how long it took to get in this condition. One thing we know for sure is that life is about to get so much better for this boy who we're calling Simon. According to the Instagram video's caption, the team managed to shave off 7 pounds of matted fur from Simon, who weighed 20 pounds when he was first brought in. So this dog is a 13-pound dog that was carrying 7 pounds of matted fur. And he looks like, again, shrunk down zombie Chewbacca Shih Tzu. And it's just lovely. Also, KC Pet Project is where girlfriend Renee went and got Scout and our beloved
Does
dog.
Scout also have 20 pounds of fur to shed off?
In the winter, she gets pretty fluffy, but it definitely doesn't get to this instance. But KC Pet Project is wonderful. They do wonderful things. And it includes, just go look at the pictures. You want to see the after pictures because it's sort of relieving to just see that. Oh, you're right, Beards. There was a CNN International story about Simon.
I saw it on Reddit.
That went out there. So this apparently became a major story. Oh my goodness. Oh, watching it move is so sad. Because it moves like
Struggles to move.
It moves
like Chewbacca on a bad day.
It moves
sprained ankle, maybe.
It moves sort of like
can Chewbacca sprain his ankle?
A tauntaun, barely just sort of crawling along. It looks like a Star Wars cow. And it's old. It just moving seems so difficult. And then the next part is it shaved down, just just bug-eyed and just kind of looking around, licking its lips, wagging its tail, looking real happy. I'm going to tweet this one also because this is just what I think we all need today. It's just this video of a little dog in Kansas City who got in very bad shape and then got cleaned up.
So my question is, comparing, so like out of all the fur that was shaved off of it, what is the kangaroo equivalent here?
That is, I think it's probably about a quarter of a wallaby of fur.
Quarter of a wallaby, okay. Because
How
when I
much
see
does a
when I see an
wallaby
animal get its fur shaved, I need to know of an Australian marsupial
Right.
to compare it to. Otherwise, like
100%.
it just doesn't work.
That's a long established unit of measurement we've talked
Yeah.
about many times over the history of this show.
Also,
Yeah.
penguin poops.
Oh yeah, you can also measure time in penguin poops, I think, and weight in kangaroos. The issue is that there are so many different types of wallabies that.
Yeah. Well, it's just like the average wallaby.
Well, so let's see. Kangaroos look like the average kangaroo is probably the ones you're thinking of is about 100 to 150 pounds. It looks like. So it's a tenth of a kangaroo.
Yeah.
It's a little more, a little less,
Okay.
somewhere in that range.
I'm happy with the answer.
And they said, let's see here. I think they said how long it took. Did I say how long it took to shave it down?
I don't think so.
I don't remember that.
I think somewhere I saw that it took oh, here we go, more than 2 hours. So Beards, remind me how often penguins poop?
I don't remember. I'll look.
Please look it up. Because I'd like to get our story straight here.
Understandable.
So let's go ahead and say 125 pounds for your average kangaroo and divide that by 7. Did I do that math right?
Say that again.
It's
Sorry.
17. 7 is 125 divided by 7 is 17.8.
Checks out.
So we'll round that up to 18 because it's 8.5. So is that 18%?
Yes.
I don't think it is.
If you're taking 125 divided by 7, then yeah, you're gonna find the percentage.
That's too much though. Right?
Sorry. What
7 times 18 is
what's-
126.
what's the 125?
The average weight of a kangaroo.
Okay, 125, and the 7 is the pounds that were shaved off.
Correct. Now, 7 divided by 125 would get to 0.056. I think I flipped the order of operations.
Yeah.
So I think it's
0.56 or
0.56%.
0.05 is 5.6%. Yes.
Beers, how often do
is
penguins
right.
poop?
So this won't help you, but it's a good headline. Adelaide penguins poop so much their feces can be seen from space.
Thanks, Beers.
I didn't find the answer.
I had already typed, when I typed penguins,
physics of penguin poop.
when I searched penguins poop every blank, it filled in 4 minutes. But so then we've got, let's see, 60 divided by 4.
Every 4 minutes, yeah. That's
So
what I got too.
4 divided by 60. They shaved a lot of fur off this dog in the time that a penguin would have produced a whole lot of poop.
Science. You're welcome.
Whenever we come back, we're going to have a
Cole
brand new
Beasley.
guest join us, who I wonder if he spent any of his evening listening to the previous segment of the show that he's
I
about to
hope
join.
not.
I hope not also. We'll do that whenever we come back.
You're listening to Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
as they're now up 56-51. Trae Young in the first half, 20 points. Joel Embiid just 4 of 11 from the field in the first half for Philadelphia. 8 points for Embiid. Tonight's Game 6 on ESPN TV, ESPN radio affiliates, and the ESPN app. Hawks can advance and end the Sixers season with a win tonight. Sixers trying to send the series once again back to Philadelphia for a Game 7, which would be on Sunday. Jazz in the same situation as the 76ers, needing a road win tonight against the Clippers in Los Angeles to force a decisive Game 7 on Sunday. Jazz and Clippers will follow on ESPN TV. Kawhi Leonard again ruled out tonight for the Los Angeles Clippers. Nets have ruled out Kyrie Irving for Game 7 on Saturday. That at home in Brooklyn against the Bucks. Irving will miss his 3rd straight game of the series with a sprained right ankle. Celtics today acquiring Al Horford and Moses Brown from the Oklahoma City Thunder. In return, Thunder received Kemba Walker and the Celtics' first-round pick, the 16th overall pick in the 2021 NBA Draft. Baseball in the Bronx, Yankees at home against the A's and down 5-3. Braves at home tonight against the Cardinals, up 8-1. Ozzie Albies and William Contreras home runs for Atlanta.
Hey, it's Chris Carlin. Greeny is back Monday with reaction to a jam-packed weekend of NBA playoff action as the conference finals will be set. It's Greeny, starting at 10 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPN Plus.
You're listening to Almost Entirely Sports.
Sorry, I got distracted because I have the Facebook comments open now, so they come in live. It's distracting. Renee says that her dog keeps pawing at her phone. She's either loving the show or trying to make it stop.
With Joshua Brisco.
Listen, if you're listening to the show with your dog, please let us know how your dog is enjoying or hating the show.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
That's an old liner, but just good to bring it back to the surface again. Really, it still applies. We get plenty of feedback from human beings. I'd like to get some more dog feedback, please.
Mostly like 9-year-old kids. But that's fine.
Kids love the show. Some adults enjoy the show. Dogs,
Still trying to figure out.
We need a more representative sample size.
Yeah. Wallabies love it, though.
Our next guest here will help us understand some of the things going on in the NBA right now because there is so much of it. We'll talk about it all here with Jonathan Von Tobel, Senior NBA Analyst for VSiN. It's VSiN. You've seen it before, but that's how it's pronounced if you didn't already know. You can hear him on the Hardwood Handicappers podcast. You can follow him on Twitter at MeJVT. Jonathan, thank you for joining us. And are you a dog person?
Yes, I am. I grew up with both, but I think I would skew toward the dog camp if I were to pick a side.
Do you have a dog currently, or do you have like a favorite dog that you've had, the breed? Any details we can get will really help us get to know you, I think.
So, throughout my life, there have been many dogs. That sounds terrible, right? Just like going through dogs in time. But, like a Springer Spaniel, Golden Retriever. I think Toby, the Golden Retriever, who actually just passed this past year, was probably at the top of the list. Toby was a good boy. So I'm a Golden Retriever guy.
Also, Toby's a good dog name. I don't think I've heard a lot of it, but I like that a lot. So, again, really, I feel like we know. You're a Golden Retriever guy. You had a great dog named Toby. This is a good open. I don't know if you can channel any of that energy to make me feel like the Mavs know what they're doing, but that's sort of the segue for today. Is it seems like there is a bit of a mass exodus happening there. It sounds like Luka might not be terribly happy. Mark Cuban is tweeting things about athletic stories that seem to be sort of foretelling the future in some ways. Do you have any feel of what it's going to look like in Dallas post Rick Carlisle?
Yeah, I think, look, you're going to be fine with Luka for the next few years. This whole thing is about how long is Luka going to be there. You saw an executive press conference where they asked him, are you going to sign the extension? He laughed and he went, what do you think? So he's going to sign on the dotted line. It's just with the next few steps, are you going to get Luka for the next 4 years, or are you going to get him for the next 10 or 12? And that's, I think, what is so important about what is happening with the Dallas Mavericks right now. And what's interesting is, you read that athletic report that you're referring to that Mark Cuban alleged was total BS, and you see everything going on in the front office. Harlem Vulgaris, which there's an interesting sports gambling tie, right? Former professional gambler who made his way to the front office of the Dallas Mavericks. Maybe he has his fingers in too many pies over there in the front office, to the point where there was a dust-up reported by Tim McMahon that during the game at one point, Luka yelled at Rick Carlisle, who runs the team, you or Bob? And so what I find really interesting is Carlisle's gone, right? Donnie Nelson's gone. But by all accounts, we still have Harlow Bob in the front office. So if that's like some real tension, Mark Cuban seems to be staying the path of he's going to have his role with this team. Now, things can develop, but it's really important what's going to happen here because the personnel decisions have to be better. Seth Curry for Josh Richardson didn't really work out. The draft picks weren't really great. So these next 2 weeks are all about deciding whether or not you're going to have Luka for the long haul, like a Dirk Nowitzki, or the short term, like another one of these superstars that might find a new home.
You mentioned Dirk. There was a tweet from Mike Vigil on Twitter at the announcement that Dirk was joining the team as a special advisor. And Mike tweeted, this is like when Papa John's hired Shaq. Like, it sort of feels like you're bringing in sort of a welcome, friendly face. It's going to get a little goodwill going to maybe also put out some of the fires from behind the scenes. Do you get that feeling? Because that's sort of the thing. We talked about the Texans a lot with Jack Easterby, and everything sort of fell apart kind of over the course of really a year or so. Do you feel like the Mavs are in some danger there with the head coach and GM spots obviously still kind of up in the air?
Yeah, to a certain extent, right? Like, as long as you have Luka, you're going to be competing for a playoff spot. But the timing it seems somewhat hollow with Dirk, right? Like, hey, man, our young superstar who's now over in Lithuania competing with his national team, let's have him as a sort of ambassador. So it kind of feels like you know exactly what that move was for the most part, which is interesting, too, because you would think that even not on the payroll, Dirk Nowitzki was probably working a little magic and establishing a relationship with Luka Doncic. But, I find it fascinating from a lot of different reasons, different angles. But you'll think about it, like Mark Cuban has had a pretty static situation as an owner, right? He's only had, I think, 2 head coaches. Obviously, we know that Nelson's been there for a really long time. So this is a really interesting territory that Cuban enters into because he hasn't had to do this a lot. There hasn't been a lot of turnover for Dallas. And so what you have to do and the decisions you have to make are going to be massive. And people might trust Mark Cuban, but he also hasn't had to make a lot of these decisions, right? So this is going to be some foreign territory for him.
Yeah, you're right. He has had that sort of advantage of stability where it's a little bit easier to keep everything on the track that you're on, and they've been pretty good for the majority of that time. Obviously, they're going to have to figure out some things, but it seems like Rick Carlisle will not have any trouble at all getting a job somewhere else. And right now, Boston is open, New Orleans is open, Washington, Portland, Indiana. I guess there's still a chance in Milwaukee, perhaps. But where do you think Carlisle would make the most sense right now if you had to, if you had to bet on it? Let's just say if you had to bet on it.
Yeah. Well, I think it's probably one of those teams that seems to be on the precipice of making a solid step forward, right? Whether it's the Boston Celtics, who made a pretty solid trade, getting rid of the Kemba Walker contract and opening up a little bit more cap space, shoring their front line a little bit more, whether it's Portland, who seems to have the core that can maybe take a next step forward if they're coached a little bit better, right? If Milwaukee opens up, I think that'd be a brilliant spot for him as well. So I think it would probably be one of those. So if I'm betting on that, it would be a veteran-laden squad that could probably get pushed forward by Carlisle. And at this point, given the jobs that are open, I'd probably lean towards the Boston Celtics. There was a report about a week ago that they wanted, for lack of a better term, a retread, a guy that has been proven, not so much a first-time assistant. And I think that makes a lot of sense of where they're at and where they could be with the right personnel moves and the right head coach.
So it sounds like you like the move that the Celtics made, then sending Kemba to Oklahoma City, Kemba Walker, and this year's first-round pick, future second, for Al Horford, future second, and Moses Brown. They end up being able to move that money and bring back Al Horford. It was kind of, for me, it was sort of a funny piece of news to see today, especially seeing a relatively big trade in the midst of the playoffs still going on. But what did you make of that move for both sides? As Boston gets to free up a little bit of space, and Oklahoma City, good for them, finally getting a first-round draft pick to work with.
All right. They're so scant. They're very few. So it's going to be crazy. Now 3 first-round picks for this upcoming draft. I think you like it as much as you can, like a deal like that, right? Which is obviously like a salary dump and trying to fix things. But I will say, you mentioned Moses Brown. I think had a really solid year, 8-8, essentially 8-9 if you want to round up those numbers. You address like the key weakness, like 2 of them, right? One, you were pressed for cap space in terms of the contract that Kemba had. Still $72 million owed to him over 3 years. It's insane when you think about it. And then if you look at it from the perspective of your weakness on the court, it was a front court that has been, very thin over the last couple of years. Now you get the veteran, now Horford, you get the young piece as well. So I think you like it as much as you can, a deal like that. It's obviously not going to make a massive push. You still got to address, I think, the point guard position because you just shipped off your starting point guard. But overall, I think it's a really solid move. And by all accounts, right, Kemba Walker is going to be on the move now. Oklahoma City is going to Chris Paul him in terms of finding a spot that would work for him. And bringing it full circle, one of the first teams that popped up in some of the reports for Kemba Walker before he got traded was Dallas. So maybe the Dallas Mavericks go ahead and acquire him. We'll see if that's going to happen, but it does seem like Kemba Walker's not done moving around here.
We have a relatively eclectic fan base here in Kansas City. Beards, who called you as a Celtics fan, he did a double arms in the air fist pump whenever you said Carlisle to Boston. Rudy in here is a Nuggets fan. I am a Suns fan, so I will take your Chris Paul reference as an excuse to talk about my beloved and apparently now unstoppable Phoenix Suns, except for the fact that Chris Paul is in the COVID protocols now, especially whenever you're watching the lines change and the odds for teams not only in the next series, but all the way to the championship. How much have you seen those Suns numbers move over the course of the playoffs? And then how are you feeling right now with Chris Paul being a little bit up in the air, although it seems like most of the sentiment there is relatively positive, with him being able to hopefully come back after maybe missing a game at this point?
Yeah, and I think, I think it was either Adrian Wojnarowski or Brian Windhorst today. You've talked about the fact that if this Clippers series goes 7,
yeah,
there's a very solid chance that he's not even going to miss time. So that'll be a really big positive for him. No, look, the Suns they've been extremely impressive, right? And the thing is, like, we can quibble, like we do the stupid conversation about asterisks, if you want to put an asterisk on the playoff run, but they have taken care of business against teams that have been banged up in front of them, right? The Lakers lose Anthony Davis, took care of business in a big way. The Denver Nuggets, they're banged up in their backcourt, but they beat the absolute crap out of them over 4 games. So it's not like they're barely getting by these teams. They're taking care of business in a massive fashion. I think my quibble with Phoenix has always been the depth a little bit. I think in 3 out of those 4 games, each one of the reserves posted a minus in terms of their plus minus in the box score. You saw that those gaps got closed a little bit in the bench minutes for the Phoenix Suns. So I think that's the worry, if you have one for Phoenix, is that the depth, I think, is a little shaky at times. But other than that, look, the numbers right now are going to be a little bit shorter than they should be, only because they're the only team in the Western Conference Final.
Right.
They're going to be an underdog to either Utah and potentially the Clippers if Kawhi Leonard is going to be back, but all indications are maybe not going to be available. So if you want to bet on a type, the best shot for you is going to be that rolling parlay where you're just betting them series to series. Bet on them in the Western Conference Finals and then roll that over into an NBA Finals, whoever that's going to be. Because if it's Brooklyn or if it's Milwaukee to Philadelphia, they're going to be an underdog to any one of those teams outside of Atlanta who they'd be favored over. But you have to be impressed, man. And look, I'm a Clippers fan, so we can add to the massive amount of people that are here.
Yes.
But it's cool to see Chris Paul in terms of what the playoff history has been on the verge of potentially getting this done, and the path is wide open for it. So I think anecdotally, I think you got to love what the Phoenix Suns are doing because the story is absolutely awesome if you're a basketball fan.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it more than I would have even imagined enjoying a deep playoff run after not seeing one for a decade. I do hate now to potentially prod at a sensitive spot for you, but what are you seeing right now with the Clippers? And I mean, you obviously you got the Paul George game without Kawhi, but obviously it's still very far from ideal. As soon as it seemed like maybe they would be able to have the biggest opening in the West, you get that Kawhi news. How is it looking right now for LA?
So I think so. One of the cases that I made, and I was really strong on LA in that last game. The market really overreacted. I bet them at 7.5, bet them at 8, and I couldn't go in for thirds because at 8.5, I was like, all right, like this is getting ridiculous. But the Clippers, I think one of the things that the market didn't really realize was they really figured something out schematically in the games in Los Angeles, and I would even argue in the second half of Game 2, which remember they were down by 20-ish points, and they throw out that zone switch all defense, and they cut right back into it, take a lead in the fourth quarter. This small ball lineup really works against the Utah Jazz. It pulls Rudy Gobert out of the painted area. It allows them to attack. They have an offensive rating of 124 in this series against the team that finished first in defensive efficiency. They've been incredible on that end. And on the other side, it's a Jazz team that is predicated on driving kick opportunities to three-point shooters, and the Jazz have not been able to get within the painted area. The first 2 games of the series, they averaged 35.5 attempts within 14 feet of the basket, and they've shot over 52% of those games. Games 3 through 5, that's down to 28, and they're shooting 48% on those looks. Like, they're just not getting anything inside the arc because of the way the Clippers have played. So, I was making the argument when Kawhi went down. If we're talking about a title, it's obviously much tougher, and I don't know if they can do that. But if we're talking about winning this series where they have a schematic and a lineup and a personnel advantage, it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility that they win 2 games and, beat the Jazz in either 7 or 6. And they're on the verge of doing it. It's in perfect timing because they're back in L.A. for the first time in front of a full-capacity crowd. So I do think they're going to win this series. I think they are going to close this out tonight. Even with Mike Conley back, we have seen this now. Anthony Davis rushes back, team on the verge of elimination. He has to leave because he's not fully healthy. We've seen what James Harden is now. These soft tissue injuries are serious, and you can't rush guys back. So I do wonder what you're getting out of Conley tonight.
Do you know what the line is for tonight, then, off the top of your head for Jazz Clippers?
Yeah, Jazz Clippers right now is, let's see, Utah's up to a 2.5-point favorite. 221 is the total.
It'll be incredibly interesting if we get the Clippers-Suns Western Conference Finals that you're looking at there then. And we will not speak while that is happening. We will not call you again over the course of that series, especially unless it goes really well for Phoenix, unless we get another Suns and 4 situation. But I like that matchup quite a bit. On the Eastern Conference side, obviously, as the Sixers and Hawks play right now, the meltdown on Thursday or on Wednesday night was of epic proportions from the Sixers. The whole Eastern Conference feels like it's like a soda bottle that's just been getting shooken more and more up over the course of these last couple of weeks. What was it like in the gambling world watching that game melt down?
No, it was pretty incredible, right? Especially if you were actually getting involved in this, like from an in-game perspective. I think the highest number I saw in Atlanta was like 16, 17-ish to 1 to win that game the other day. Like, it's been nuts, man. And, like, from a basketball perspective, again, kind of tying that back to the whole Clippers thing, Doc Rivers, again, having this issue. And this has been his issue for a while in terms of closing out games. I heard a great stat earlier, either was today with Kevin O'Connor at The Ringer, in his podcast he had it, where it was Doc Rivers, the last 2 seasons, or Doc Rivers-led teams, 11-5 when they have a lead of at least 16 points. 73-3 the rest of the league in those situations. Like it's insane how bad he is, at least in terms of closing games out. And I think you're really seeing just the issues from a personnel standpoint for Philly, right? They have no dynamic pick and roll game. They don't have a point guard that threatens you at all 3 areas of the floor. Ben Simmons is clearly limited in terms of his offensive game. And Tobias Harris is not a ball handler pick and roll type. He's always going to settle for those mid-range jump shots. It's always been his game. And so Steph Curry and now Joel Embiid are your 2 outlets on offense. And I think big picture-wise, it's going to be a problem. There's a chance they can still pull this out against Atlanta, but when we're talking about a series against Milwaukee especially, or against Brooklyn, who's got the firepower if Harden's going to be fully healthy, looks a little bit better in the last game, you can't really like the chances.
Do you think that there's going to be something dramatic this offseason for the Clippers, or excuse me, for the Sixers, if they do not end up getting to at least the conference finals?
I tend to say no. I mean, only because, right, like the problems with Ben Simmons, right, because that would be the piece that would move if that was going to be the case, right? That would be gone. Joel Embiid's been absolutely fantastic. But the reason why I tend to think no is, like, everything with Ben Simmons is kind of from, like, a personal standpoint, right? Like, bro, switch your shooting hand when you're shooting free throws. Work on adding something else to your game. Like, those are kind of things that Ben Simmons himself can fix and then can stick around in Philadelphia. Like, you see what the 76ers and what all of us to a certain extent liked with Ben Simmons at a time, but it seems just so focused on what Ben wants to do as a player as opposed to his actual shortcomings, right? Like, he can't do that. I think we all know, given his profile, like, if he added, like, a little bit of a push shot or a floater or anything like that, he'd be a really dynamic player. But it all just seems to be built on him wanting to do it. So maybe if he buys into that, the 76ers run this back and they just go, revamp the backcourt with a true point guard and get somebody that can threaten them in that area of the floor. I mean, look how good they were with Jimmy Butler as a ball handler, right? Like, it could work, but so I tend to think no. And especially, too, I'm always about buying low and selling high. It's like stocks. You're selling at an all-time low here with Ben Simmons in terms of what you're getting back in a trade.
You also mentioned, obviously, all of the moving parts right now for Brooklyn. We're going to get around the entire NBA with you in one segment. This is incredible. You mentioned, obviously, that they're dealing with Harden coming back, and I don't know what the feel is right now on your side of things in terms of Kyrie maybe being back. The injury looked horrible, and left in a boot, so it doesn't seem like there's a lot of cause for optimism there. But the ceiling for a healthy Nets team is infinitely high. I don't know what the ceiling for this version of them is. I don't know what you think the most likely outcome is in that series and for either of those teams who could potentially make the finals and obviously give anybody a real fit.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating, right? Because I tend to think that they're going to win Game 7. Like, it's not anything strong, but, you're back at home. They don't have Milwaukee an answer for Kevin Durant, right? 50% from the floor in the last game. We saw what he did in Game 5 as well. He's incredible. So there's no stopper. P.J. Tucker's going to be called the Durant stopper, but it's just not the case. But what I find fascinating is, like, let's say they move on. Let's say Atlanta moves on. Yeah. Remember, Atlanta beat them twice in Brooklyn early in the season. They offer some matchups that I think would kind of be a problem for Brooklyn. I would be fascinated by, like, an Atlanta-Brooklyn series and how much fun that would potentially be between these two, because I don't know if they're stopping each other. So, like, what that would be in the Eastern Conference Finals would be nuts. But if you're telling me that Harden is fully healthy and Kevin Durant obviously looks very fully healthy and even Kyrie's not going to come back, I tend to think that this team is, if they move on from Milwaukee, still going to win that Eastern Conference Final Series, whether it's Atlanta, whether it's Philadelphia, and still are going to be the team to beat in the NBA Finals. I'll be very clear, I'm a massive Harden stan. When he was at the peak of his powers this year, I was pushing for him for MVP because he was so incredible. He makes a massive difference with what he can do on offense. I mean, look at his presence in Game 5, altered everything for Milwaukee. He was on one leg, and they didn't want to go at him, and they were still defending him very tightly. So I think if he can progressively get healthier, I still think Brooklyn is the best team in the Eastern Conference.
There's so much talent between it. Literally, any of their two out of their 3 stars. It's unbelievable that they could lose Kyrie and be the favorite still.
And I think, what we overreact to, like the market really overreacted to the loss for Harden for injury, right? In Game 2, the Nets were like a 1.5-point underdog, 2-point underdog at home. They've been playing with 2 out of the 3 all year long, right? So it's not like if they lose any one of the 2, it's like, oh my God, how is this going to work? The complaint about them was that they weren't playing together. But then all of a sudden, the betting market was like, whoa, man, they're not complete. Like, no, like this is what they've been doing all season long. Like, they can overcome this.
So with that, you've almost certainly answered this implicitly somewhere, but is there one place right now in the market where you look at that and you say, right here is an overreaction that people should be capitalizing on, or maybe an underreaction that I think people should be reacting to harder? Is that somewhere with Brooklyn? Where is that in the playoffs right now?
So it's situationally, and I actually just wrote about this for our magazine today. There's a very popular trend where teams in series, and we'll see if this manifests itself in the next few series that we're going to see, but teams in series that lose the first 2 games and then come back home for Game 3, down 2-0 going back home for a really long time, that was an insanely strong trend, right? I think even going back to 2015, 2016, heading into this postseason, we're talking somewhere in the range of like 23-9, like a really strong trend, first quarter, first half, that you bet on the team down 2-0 going back home. The problem is the books have really caught up, and you get a lot of these instances where you're laying numbers that are equivalent to the game in the first half. So for you as a bettor, there's really no value in numbers like that. We've had 5 instances this season alone in the postseason of teams down 2-0 going back home, and it's 2-3 up to this point. So not only this year has it lost in terms of to have 2-3 record, but you're also buying into some massive numbers. Denver's a good example. Phoenix and Denver played. Denver goes back home down 2-0. They're a 1.5-point favorite for the game. They're a 2.5, 3-point favorite for the first half. Like, that's like, there's no value in a number like that. So I would say that's the opportunity you want to look for. If we get another one of these series where a team loses the first 2 and goes back home, there's been some really good value in this postseason betting against that trend because you're getting some really inflated numbers on the other side.
Jonathan, we'll let you go. Thank you for making the time you did for us tonight. I feel like I've learned some things. I feel informed, energized for a few more basketball games throughout these remaining series, and I imagine we'll talk to you again before too terribly long.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I always appreciate it.
Great stuff there from Jonathan Von Tobel. You can follow him on Twitter at MEJVT, MEJVT, and you can see his work on VSiN. You can also hear him on the Hardwood Handicappers podcast. And if you go to you can go to VSiN.com, VSIN.com, and if you go to VSIN.com/newsletter, you can get their free daily sports betting email. And if you're interested in betting on basketball, after exactly one conversation, I feel like I'm going to have a pretty hard time sending you in a better direction than towards Jonathan there. And we only brought up the fact that the Suns swept the Nuggets, I think, twice.
Sorry, I blacked out. What happened?
We had a good segment. Oh, you were blacked out for it, which might, correlation, causation, who's to say? Were you blacked out for the whole segment or just my question there, what you say?
Just anytime I heard Suns,
yeah,
my brain, like when I hear the word Suns, I can say it, but if somebody else says the word Suns, basically for the next 60 seconds, it's just nothing.
Rudy's just seeing Chris Paul pick and rolls with Jokic and MPJ just in his head, and it's just nightmare fuel.
Last commercial break.
Center field's playing in the background.
Sorry, guys, blacked out. What happened?
Last commercial break, Rudy was talking about Michael Porter Jr.'s next contract, and I was going through the notes before we talked to Jonathan, and Beard said every time I turn on Rudy's mic and during a commercial, it's just always Nuggets. And Beard, I think what you've learned is that whenever next time he's like, and then what if they wanted to trade for Zion? You just go, Suns!
Chris Paul!
Poof! Disappeared for 60 seconds. How excited would Rick Carlisle of Boston make you, Beards?
Oh, my gosh.
Can you say it in a safe for radio way?
I've got a joke, but I'm not going to make it.
So this is my semi-serious
not gonna make it.
NBA thing real quick.
Not going to do it.
Rick Carlisle is a hard ass.
I do it.
And hates 2 things, young players and point guards.
Not going to do it.
They have young players. They have a young point guard. now that's Peyton Pritchard or Marcus Smart. I don't know what they're going to do there. But anyway, I would love it, Carlisle.
What are the two things he hates? Say it again for me.
Young basketball players and point guards.
Okay. I combined the two to young point guards.
Yes.
At that point, he just sees red. He just sees fully red at that point.
So let's see. Jason Tatum.
How old is he?
He's only
Jason
19.
Tatum is 23.
It's pretty young, Beards.
Pretty
It is young.
It's pretty young,
It
Beards. You
is.
sure you want that?
Jaylen Brown.
He's
How old
also
is-
exceptional.
How old is Jaylen Brown?
Like 24?
24.
You sure, Beards?
Yes.
All right. You want your coach to come in and immediately
Robert
hate.
Williams.
You know who will love?
He's
Al
not a point guard. It doesn't matter.
You know who will love? Al Horford.
Yeah.
Because he's big and old.
Marcus Smart. Well, he'll half like
Robert
Marcus Smart.
Williams is 23. Huh.
Let's go ahead and take a break. Whenever we come back, Beards, I would like to actually get your thoughts on the trade the Celtics made today. I've got another total nonsense story that I think will be good for a little reprieve. And some point during the break, Beards is going to say the code word to Rudy as he's blasting out takes about his Nuggets. So we'll talk about some more basketball things and some total utter nonsense
Taco Fall is 25.
whenever we come back.
Did you know you can listen to Almost Entirely Sports anywhere, anytime? Well, you can. Just search for Almost Entirely Sports wherever you get your podcasts. You're listening to Almost Entirely Sports.
I think they... Boring you, Beards?
Sorry. I had a yawn.
Yeah, we heard.
You can. There's a little off button.
No.
There's
There's not a yawn button. There's a cough button, but there's not a yawn button.
There's an off button.
On your mic.
With Joshua Brisco.
Anyway, so Doug Marone, you're supposed to yawn again, Beards. Now we go live to Beards for his NBA season preview. Beards, go.
Timberwolves might not make the playoffs this year, guys.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Handful of NBA things here. Also, thanks to Ice Pyro for the subscription on Twitch. You can watch the show. In addition to just listening to it, you can watch it, twitch.tv/sportsradio810. You can go to the 810 Facebook and YouTube pages as well if you want to watch and comment along. Beards, let's go first with the trade that your Boston Celtics made today. Just because it's kind of funny to me. They let Al Horford walk.
It's kind of funny.
It's kind of funny.
Yeah, here's the thing.
it is.
I think it's probably, like, I haven't, dived into a bunch. Seems like the right decision in terms of
It's not
freeing
dumb,
up money.
but it's kind of funny.
But it's just like, I sent that tweet in the chat where it's basically like they thought Al Horford was too much money, so they went out and gave Kemba Walker more money to trade for Al Horford.
Yep.
Who is making the same amount of money that they just could have paid him.
Yeah,
and, again,
it cost them a first-round pick.
Yeah, and again, it's fine. 16th overall pick, many times. That guy is a G League player.
Yep.
It happens all the time.
It's not a top 5 pick. It's not the equivalent of the 16th pick in the NFL draft.
This is just how basketball works.
Sure.
It's really not. We say lottery pick just to expand
Or they're
it
just
a little
the guy
bit.
on the bench.
Yeah.
But frequently it's even top 5, right? Any pick out of the top 5 is a lot of times luck, unless it's a guy who is talented who just dropped because of injury, like Michael Porter Jr.
The 16th pick might end up being essentially Moses Brown.
Yeah.
Who ended up going to
I think
the
Boston's
Celtics.
pick last year was about 16 or whatever, and it was Aaron Nesmith, who for half the year was
His
clueless.
grandpa invented basketball.
Yeah. For the first half of the year was clueless, and then suddenly discovered himself, and he's going to be a great 7th or 8th man for a couple of years.
What did he
He's
do?
going to be.
He figured out what to do on the basketball court.
He's going to be a great 7th or 8th man for a couple years.
Right, but that's the point that we're making.
It's just funny.
And he discovered himself. He'll be
He
a
discovered
7th or 8th man.
Yeah.
I feel like it's probably what you should say.
Great's a strong word, but you know.
But the Celtics, to try to boil it down a little bit here first. So the Celtics send Kemba Walker, who they gave a bunch of money to, who was a great player and has bad knees, right?
Yes.
Close enough? I guess has been pretty good whenever he's actually played still, I think.
Yes.
Just bad knees.
Yes.
Sure.
Kemba Walker and the 16th overall pick in this year's draft, and then a future second, and they're getting a future second back. Don't worry about those.
Those
And
will be nothing.
They get Moses Brown. Moses Malone would be
Oh my
be
God!
interesting.
If we
This
got
most-
Moses Malone.
16th overall pick this recent year, Isaiah Stewart.
Are you asking me who he plays for? 'Cause
Do
I
you
would-
even know?
Not a clue.
Like, do you
I don't.
just-
Not
okay,
a clue.
exactly.
He's
Yeah.
Isn't
he a Piston?
He's a Piston.
He was drafted by the Trailblazers, but he's not
what I
on the
said.
Trailblazers.
he's a
And
Piston.
he was traded to Detroit via Houston.
Yep.
Okay.
Via Houston.
So it's essentially Kemba Walker in a first for Al Horford. Al Horford was a Celtic. They let him walk. He went and got a bunch of money. They paid Kemba a bunch of money. Now they're basically trying to get Kemba Walker's contract off their books. And the first round pick is partially, hey, Oklahoma City, please deal with Kemba's money. And also we will get Al Horford back, who's also making, is it fair to say that he's overpaid for his current value? Okay.
Yes.
So they are getting a less overpaid player who will be able to play, hopefully, more and have more of an impact than Kemba did. Yeah? Fair? Or is this a
2019
wash? Is this just money?
16th overall pick in
Finish that
2019.
word. Finish that word, Beards.
or
Horford.
Kiki.
Horford
You can't listen,
will
Rudy. You just can't.
age well better than Kemba's knees will. I'll put it that way.
Okay, two
I think
things.
Horford's already aged, Beards.
Horford's 35. That man is old.
He is aged.
Second, Rudy, he's got to be really careful. You know, I don't want to berate you or anything, but please don't interrupt Beards partway through the word Horford.
16th overall pick in 2018. Zaire Smith, Phoenix Suns.
Maybe more
From
importantly,
Miami traded to Philadelphia.
And he's not played, I think, since last year.
just try not to jump in
So who?
during the.
What was the trade again?
Please just don't interrupt.
What word?
Partway through the word
So in 2017,
Horford.
16th overall pick, Chicago Bulls traded to Minnesota. Justin Patton.
Beards, what do you think about the trade?
About which one?
Doing
The
this till I find a
one the
player.
Celtics just made.
I I like Kemba. I've liked him since he was at UConn, so it kind of stinks. He was a good player when he was healthy, but it's just he hasn't been healthy. In the playoffs, his knees were an issue, and like last year, he wasn't healthy during the bubble and stuff, and Toronto just abused him. They just did that like little box and one defense, and it just basically took him out of it. I liked Horford when
In 2016.
I liked Horford when
Boston
he was
Celtics.
here.
Drafted Gershon Yabusele.
Just call him Al. Just call him Big Al from this point forward.
Big Al. I liked Big Al when he was a Celtic. I'm glad they didn't pay him that money at the time. And also, I think that was the thing where he wanted out, too. It was less of Boston letting him walk and more just Horford deciding to leave.
Big Al.
There we go.
Who the Celtics also had the 16th overall pick in 2015. The Celtics have had the 16th overall pick in 15, 16, and 21, but they traded.
Who were the 15 and 16 picks?
Mediocre franchise.
2015 was Scary Terry.
Hey, he was pretty good.
2016 was, let me go back.
Although
Let me
I
see if I
hated
can
it
say
at the
this name. Gershon Yabusele.
Oh, Yabusele?
Yeah.
He's not around anymore.
No.
Did he die?
No, he's just
RIP.
not on the Celtics, and I don't think he's in the NBA.
Okay.
You know who was also drafted in the 2015 draft?
Just
NBA Finals MVP and USA Today's most valuable, or USA Today, USA men's basketball team most valuable player, Devin Booker.
I said Devin Booker, but you okay? I said death, and then you started saying a bunch of things. You're looking into the near future, which is great.
This doesn't matter, but I just gotta say it. 2015 draft, 13th overall, Devin Booker. 14th overall, Cameron Payne. 15th overall, Kelly Oubre Jr.
Oh,
there is some Suns legends right there.
the only thing about this
Was
Suns,
Frank Kaminsky in that draft, too?
9th overall, Frank Kaminsky.
the only thing about this Suns season that has not been quite right for me is I just wish Kelly Oubre had a very minimal role on the team somewhere.
Yeah.
Where's Alex Len
Understandable.
when you need him?
Far away, which is exactly where I need him
Where
as
you
well.
need him, yeah.
So kind of a weird trade for Boston. Kind of funny, but not necessarily bad.
Yeah.
Not a great sign. Also,
They
kind
had-
of interesting for that to be the first thing that Brad Stevens sort of seems to have orchestrated.
Yeah, that's definitely interesting.
Because he
Horford-
was coaching Kimba on a
Big
now-
Al.
Big
there
Al.
we go. Big Al will be better than Tristan Thompson was. Thompson was fine, but Big Al's game fits better in the modern NBA than Tristan's does. And they had issues at center since they traded Daniel Tice, who
Now-
was good.
Does Big Al have to forego Social Security? Like, does he get that while he plays, or?
I mean, he was playing in Oklahoma City.
Yeah, does he get his Social Security, though?
I would assume so.
Is there a joke that I'm not
Because
getting?
he's old.
He's old.
I got it. Pretty freaking funny, guys.
Thank you.
16th overall pick in 2014, Yusuf Nurkic.
Beard, say the thing that... Okay, Rudy, close your Wikipedia draft tab.
I was honestly just going back to find, like, the first player who was, like, drafted 16th who was, like, good. 2014 was the last player drafted. Well, no, 2015, because Scary Terry is a good NBA player. Fine NBA player.
Yeah.
Spooky, though.
He is very spooky.
So, Beards proposed the question that
I gotta say, one more. 2013 Boston Celtics drafted Lucas Nogueira.
They had it in 13.
They had it also in 13.
Wait a second. Hold on.
All you guys have are the 16th overall pick. Now, you traded them to Atlanta via Dallas.
Again, mediocre franchise.
Yeah.
But, like, this, like, all you have, you always have the 16th overall pick, Beards.
Nogueira.
What?
That was his nickname.
Royce White in 2012.
Oh.
Iowa State.
Beards, ask the question you asked me earlier, or phrase it the way that you did. We'll see what
Okay.
Rudy's reaction is, and then I have a few things I want to
Okay.
talk about.
I was playing the game in my head earlier of how many teams, if you gave their president of basketball operations truth serum and just asked them this yes or no question, how many of them would say yes? And I posited it was a very high number.
No.
How many of these teams would fire their head coach to replace him with Rick Carlisle? And I said it was like all but maybe 4.
Oh.
I think that number is way too high.
Yeah, but
And let's say, instead of truth serum, let's say
So-
Rick Carlisle went to them and said, I want to be your head coach.
Yes.
Fire your coach and hire me. How many of them would do it?
I think the only ones that wouldn't are Popovich, or the Spurs and Popovich, Nick Nurse, Spoelstra, and maybe Steve Nash, only because it's his first year.
You're gonna get some real homerific stuff here from Rudy and I, but I think here's where I think this list is too short. Go ahead and say your Nuggets thing.
I'm not even saying Nuggets.
Oh, really?
Golden State's not firing Steve Kerr.
No way.
It's not happening.
No chance. Do you know who has the highest? This is not an answer to this question, Beards, because I actually think that this is one that is in your correct column. Do you know who has the highest winning percentage? I think regular season winning percentage in the NBA among current head
76ers would
coaches
have fired Doc Rivers
with their active.
It's not for that.
Current win percentage.
We'll see how this series goes. Maybe
Kerr's
they may fire
probably
him.
pretty high up there. The other one I'd say is maybe Popovich, just because he's played for so long and had so many teams that were 60 wins.
Hold on, I'm trying to figure out. Hold on. Now I've bleeped up because I don't have enough.
So
I've got 2 columns. I don't know what they each are.
So
Current and career. I guess it's current team. Maybe they're saying.
Golden State's not firing Steve Kerr.
Okay.
It's Mike Budenholzer. Mike Budenholzer has a great record with the Bucks. Okay, we can move on to back to the game.
Utah's not firing Quinn Snyder.
I would disagree on that.
I would bet my life savings, which is very little,
Just in terms
they would
of
not fire
coaching
Quinn
ability.
Snyder. They would, they would not fire Quinn Snyder. They love Quinn Snyder. They
But
would
it's got
not fire Quinn
part
Snyder.
of it is my main argument against your
I'm
number.
not saying Quinn Snyder is a better coach. Even though I would take Quinn Snyder over Carlisle, but I'm not necessarily. But like, it's not necessarily about that. They would not fire Quinn Snyder today for Rick Carlisle.
My argument against your number, Beards, is not is this coach better than this coach, but it's that inertia matters in the front offices.
I'm just doing it based on is this coach better. That's the only argument that I'm doing this on.
Okay, well I'm at 6 pretty easy because again I think Quinn Snyder's a better coach than Rick Carlisle right now.
But so
I think you look at his teams the last just 3 years proves that.
I think, and this is where I'll make my homerific argument, if the Suns fired the coach that got them to the conference finals and maybe the finals after this season to hire Rick Carlisle, Arizona's already on fire all the time, but it would be even more on fire. And I would understand because you seem to have the chemistry there. It's why you mentioned, Beards, maybe not Steve Nash. Steve Nash is not a better NBA head coach right now than Rick Carlisle is by a bunch of metrics.
But it's also his first year and he was an excellent point guard.
Right, but the reason that he got that job is for the vibes. He's a vibes coach. Mm-hmm. Same for Frank Vogel, right? I think we probably think Rick Carlisle is a better basketball coach than Frank Vogel, but he's got the LeBron approval, so he's not getting fired. So I don't think Monty Williams would. And then I can get down to, I think you could make the argument for Tom Thibodeau. He just won Coach of the Year, and the Knicks are happy with where they're at. I really think you're undervaluing keeping the guy and not restarting that element of your team.
I'm just doing this on
Rick Carlisle.
I'm not worried about.
Yeah, Rick Carlisle is a better coach than Thibodeau, but
I think you phrased the question wrong.
Yeah.
I phrased the question wrong. You said if you gave him truth serum, who would you fire? Would you fire your current guy? And I don't think the Suns would fire Monty Williams. Just as my most educated example.
If you gave James Jones truth serum, he is not firing Monty Williams.
Yeah, I don't think he would.
Not for Rick Carlisle at least. Maybe for Popovich. Well, I don't even know that because Popovich is getting old, but like maybe for Doc.
Probably could have fired him for Steve Nash if he wanted to.
Yeah,
didn't. Wasn't going to.
Maybe
Not
for
gonna.
Steve, but yeah.
I don't know that means that Monty Williams is a top 3 or top 5 coach, but I do think it means the organization is happy where they're at.
He's a coach that has a good relationship with Chris Paul.
But if you're telling me coaches
and a very young team around Chris Paul.
Sure.
Coaches who are definitively better than Rick Carlisle, at least in my mind, it's Steve Kerr.
I think Kerr's really good, but I think he also had the benefit of playing with Draymond and Steph and Kevin Durant.
Played with that's a hell of a team he played with. Well, but like that's part of the NBA, like right, like Phil Jackson's considered the greatest of all time, but like
that's right.
He only ever had Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, like you know what I mean? Yeah. Like that's part of it.
Because also managing that is a legit. You can look at every team LeBron has played for.
And that's part of it.
Managing those. That is a trait.
Yeah,
that will be the thing that
Phil
has
Jackson's
Steve Nash
greatest trait was managing teams that had Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan, and it's an incredible trait because like especially not even dealing with Michael Jordan when he was the Bulls coach, but like he dealt with essentially the few kind of like the not fuse probably not the right word, but Scottie Pippen, Michael Jordan always were a little bit at edge. I forget what series it was where Scottie Pippen basically had a concussion. It was like, hey, I can't see right now, I can't play. Jordan never really liked Pippen much after that, and then of course Rodman just like disappeared for a week when he was supposed to be gone for like 48 hours. That's impressive. To deal with that's impressive.
Beards is our resident NBA head. I would like you to answer some questions for me.
Okay.
Okay, Rudy, don't say anything else out loud right now. You got the list though. You're not looking at a list of coaches, are you?
No.
Beards?
Hold on. Let me
No.
click away. Let me click away.
Just keep.
I was just clicking
keep
away
your
from
eyes, Keep your eyes over here.
Real
Okay.
fast, I want to
Look
give
into my
Beards.
eyes.
I'm gonna give Beards one thing, and then I'll let you go do this. I'm just looking at current NBA head
Thank you for your
coaches.
permission.
I would put Rick Carlisle fifth behind Kerr,
Monty Williams,
Doc,
Michael Malone.
Popovich.
Behind Doc?
Yeah, Doc Rivers, I would say. Or wait, let me make sure. I'm pretty sure Doc is because I think Doc Rivers.
I think Doc's good, but I
phenomenal coach.
think Carlisle's better.
He won you a title, Beards.
Also,
Yeah,
what
Doc
are we
Rivers.
doing with Rick Carlisle? When was the last? Does he have one title? Two?
Yes, he won
Yeah.
2011. He was the Mavs coach.
That was a decade ago.
Uh-huh.
That was a decade. It's
Rick
been a
Carlisle
decade.
has not been out of the first round of the playoffs since 2010-11.
Like, and I understand that he hasn't had the NBA's
They've
best
had
talent
they've
around
had a bad
him.
roster built around that team for a while now. And he has managed
holy
to scrape,
shnikes.
but
But also-
to scrape the barrel
Yeah.
and get excellent offenses out of those teams.
I mean, in 2013 and 2014, they won 49 and 50 games,
And they were like
he
the
lost,
eighth seed.
and he lost in the first round. Well, you know what? Western
to the
Conference.
Spurs that won the championship.
I'll
that
give you.
year.
It's the Western Conference. I'll give you that.
He's
I'll
made.
give you a
And they
little
took them to
yeah.
7 that year, and they were the only competition that the Spurs had that year in the playoffs.
He's had good. He's coached good teams in a tough conference, but I don't. I don't feel like he ends up in some upper echelon by default. I think that's kind of wild.
I mean, since he's with Dallas, only twice has he gotten out of the first round. Lost in the conference semifinals, won an NBA title.
is that right? Wow.
And then the year after they won the title, like half their team
Lost in the
left
first
because
round.
they didn't re-sign
They got
Tyson
swept.
Chandler, who ended up going to the Defensive Player of the Year
Since-
award after that.
Since they won the title, they got swept in 2011, missed it in 2012, lost in 7 in 2013, lost in 5 in 2014, lost in 5 in 2015, missed the playoffs, lost in 6, and then lost in 7.
Beards, can you play some music for me? Like, do you have an original creation or anything?
Yes.
He's a good coach.
Beards, you're our NBA expert.
Okay.
Everyone knows this.
I would also say best available coach for Boston. Most proven, for sure.
Beards, you know everything about the NBA. Correct?
Nah.
First question. Who is the head coach of the Charlotte Hornets? And this is not me
Michael
throwing you
Jordan.
under a bus, by the way, because these are all answers that I would not have. They're all questions I did not have the answer to without the answers in
Is
front
it
of me.
Borrego?
Damn, that's impressive.
James Borrego.
I want to say one quick thing. I would take Michael Malone. Rick Carlisle is
Beards-
a more accomplished coach. I'm
Beards,
done.
I will Venmo you right now
I'm done.
$5 for your work on this.
Okay.
I'm done.
Scrub back through this segment and just find out how many times Rudy said one more thing.
I'm done.
This is not a binding offer.
No,
I'm
no,
not
I'm
going to
good.
send you any money, Beards.
I'm done.
Damn.
Who is the head coach of the Houston Rockets?
Steven Silas.
Apparently, he's the son of Paul Silas, as I was telling Rudy during the break. I know who Paul Silas is. I did not know his son. His name was Steven, and I did not know he was coaching the Houston Rockets. Who is the head coach of the Minnesota Timberwolves? He was hired in February.
They got rid of Flip Saunders' son, and it's one of
Flop
the.
was his name.
It was one of the assistants, but I do
Flop
not remember his
Flop
name.
Saunders. Chris Finch.
There we go.
Who is the head coach, Beards McFly?
Mm-hmm.
Resident NBA expert of the Oklahoma City Thunder. He's been there since November 2020. He's been there for almost a full year. I don't know if I've ever seen this name in my entire life.
It's not Billy Donovan because Billy Donovan left and went to Chicago.
Correct.
Bonus points.
I actually know this name, but it's only because of somebody who I follow on Twitter who just tweets about the Thunder all the time.
I do not remember.
His first name is Mark.
I don't know how to pronounce his last name.
I don't know.
That is your hint. Is that his last? Denault?
Current youngest active head coach in the NBA.
Diagonal?
Dano?
I don't know.
I think it's Dano.
Deno?
I think it's Dano.
He's 35. He is the same age as Al Horford. He's younger
is.
than Chris Paul.
It is Dag Nolt. Is his
The
last name.
head. Hold on.
Listen, I haven't been paying attention to Oklahoma City basketball at all this year.
Dude, the head coach of the Oklahoma City Thunder is a year younger than their point guard last year.
Yep.
What?
He coached with Billy Donovan. He was assistant for Billy Donovan in Florida.
Beards, what is the G League Oklahoma City team named?
The Oklahoma City Blue.
He was the head coach of them.
It's a stupid team name, and it's
It is.
stupider that
It's
you knew the
very
answer to
stupid.
it. You knew the answer. You had that ready to go. I'll give you credit for that one. All right, your expert status is untouched, Beards. We will sing your praises now and forever.
Take the show with you wherever you go. Listen live on the Sports Radio 810 mobile app and 810WHB.com. This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
And if you'd like to read this story, you can go to goal.com/en-us/news/penis-biting-player-band-4-5-years-over act of.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
One more story I want to talk about before we bring in Mich Shaffer, 41 Action News. Lee Sanderlin is a man who lost his fantasy football league, and as a punishment for coming in last place, he had the following punishment to pay. Spend 24 hours in a Waffle House, but for every full waffle that you eat, 1 hour comes off the clock. So you sit down, you eat a waffle, now you're at 23 hours to go, but you can just wait an hour, now you're at 22, eat another waffle, you're at 21, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So he ended up being there. I believe he ended up eating 6 waffles over the course of his time there.
9, I believe.
Was it 9?
Yeah, I believe it was 9 waffles, but he was in there for 15 hours.
15 hours, 9 waffles, 1 barf, I know for sure. With that being said, where do you guys think you would end up here? These are Waffle House waffles. They're about the size of the plate, but they're not very thick. They don't look terribly crispy either, which I think would get pretty old. But if your plan was to be there, I want to start with Beards. If your plan was to be there for 24 hours, but you could take hours off for eating waffles, what would your strategy be?
I'm eating about 4 waffles because I'm not trying to throw up. I'm going to get hungry every once in a while, and then I'm just going to tank the rest of it.
So if you ate 5 waffles, you think you'd throw up?
Over the course of 19 hours.
No,
but
just
I'm
like
not
off
trying
the
to push
bat.
myself, is the
What?
thing.
And he's not eating 4 hours. He's not eating 4 at the beginning either. He's going to have a waffle and then another waffle in like 4 hours and another waffle in like 4 hours.
Yeah.
He's going to have a waffle every
But-
4 hours, basically.
We'll
What's your
see
strategy,
We'll see
Rudy?
how I'm doing later on.
And you think that would make you feel sick if you did more?
I just don't want to go
Beards,
crazy.
you have the tummy of a 2-year-old or of a 2-month-old.
Tummy of a 2-year-old is pretty funny.
I like waffles.
What's your strategy, Rudy?
Yeah, but I could eat 4 waffles in an hour and I'd feel full, but I'm not feeling
They're big.
sick.
These are big.
Yeah,
I think if you ate
yeah.
if you sat
But,
down and ate 4 of these, I think you would feel sick.
I don't think I'd feel sick. I'd feel full. I don't think I'd feel sick.
If you had a stack of 4 of
Because
these,
these are not
what's your
that,
strategy?
These aren't. Oh, I could eat 2 an hour easy. I could
Well,
knock
now we
out
have
2.
to
I
prove
could knock
this.
out 2 in essentially I think 10 minutes. Take 50 minutes to a full hour off. Eat 2. Again, I'm not feeling
So how
good.
long is that taking you then?
So
the
what
guy
is that? So again, if I mean 2 an
Do
hour,
that math
that's
silently. I'm going to give you
basically
my
food.
math. Here's my math. I think I could eat 1 an hour, basically with that
8
strategy.
hours.
Maybe I could eat 2 at the very beginning and then 1 an hour, but I feel pretty confident. Maybe give me an hour off. I'm in and out in 12 hours, 12 waffles. That's my split.
I feel so I could do 2 an hour. I'd be out in 8 hours. I'm not feeling good at the end of it,
16
right?
waffles. That's 16 waffles.
Yeah. I'm not feeling good.
In 8 hours.
I'm not feeling good, but I'm out of there in 8 hours, and that's kind of what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get out of there.
I'm going
fast.
12-12. You're going 16-8. Beards is going 20-4.
I'm there for the experience.
Or you're going 8-16.
No, Beards, you would be so you
can do that already.
You are listening to Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Kansas City. You're listening to Almost Entirely Sports.
Nonstop. Right hand, left hand, nonstop, Josh.
With Joshua Brisco.
At the time, it is the only thing I want to do.
Yeah.
The next day, I 100% regret it every time.
Yeah.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Summer of Mick is over because he's back in the building now. Mich Shaffer, 41 Action News. It's really all summer of Mick. You know,
Who said it's over? What is this crap?
Chet Hank said it was going to be white boy summer, but I think we had
It
hot girl
needs to be.
summer. We had a pandemic summer. This is the summer of Mick.
Yeah.
And I said it's over because I think the purest form of summer of Mick is you not having to work, but you're here today.
Yeah, I'm here today. It's my day off, and I'm here working away.
Oh,
Man up. Earlier today, this afternoon, I was at Rally House.
Yeah.
Having to work there and get free stuff and
brutal,
laugh and everything and have takes occasionally on sports. That show.
There were applauses,
That show.
people cheering for Mick.
Right,
it
right.
was rough.
Talking about dad jokes.
It was rough.
That show was a lot of days almost entirely sports.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm glad you mentioned that, Mick. I really don't feel like they get a lot of the same stigma that we do.
Yeah.
I really don't feel like we're on an even playing field here, and I don't know if I like it.
You know what I'm tired of?
Almost
And
everything.
a lot of people in radio and TV and print are this way. Just a bunch of pansies. I'm tired of oh, it's so hot out there. Everybody be safe. It's so hot. I can't stand it.
I love the heat.
I love the heat.
How do you feel about the heat in this room?
It's June.
Oh, I feel good.
It's going to be July.
Yeah, yeah.
Every June and July and August are hot.
Yeah.
Get over it. Get used to it. Go to a pool and have a beer.
I can't. I'm doing this
couldn't do
radio
it last
show,
year.
Mick. I can feel sweat on my face in this
Go
room,
to a pool
Mick.
and have a beer. Oh, God. And yeah, it's 100 today. Would I rather
too
it be
hot. It
90?
feels great.
Sure.
Doesn't feel good.
But I'm not
great.
going to bitch
Feels
and moan
great.
like everybody. It could be, 88. Oh, be safe out there. It's hot. Shut up.
I'm with Mick on this. At least
I'm so
until we get to
tired of
winter.
it.
At that point, then I think we should be allowed to complain all we want.
No.
Not speaking for me, obviously, because I never
cold
complain.
drinks and pools,
I never
boys.
complain in the cold
It ain't
weather.
hard.
So, Mick, your stance is never complain about the weather, period, right? Just
No.
tough it up? Okay.
No.
Okay?
Never complain about the heat.
See, this is, you guys are the worst.
Yes.
And then Beards is my only ally here.
Because
and I don't know
the
if I.
cold hurts.
Yeah, see,
I mean,
that's
it's
my argument.
Your bones hurt. And
That is
don't-
always
I
my
know what's
argument.
about to come out of
Cold
his
doesn't
mouth.
make my shirt wet.
Who cares? I like sweat,
Yeah.
man. Lose
What?
some weight. We
Yeah.
lose some weight in the summer.
You
I
don't
know,
lose
good.
weight from your sweat.
Yes, you do.
You're just
And you know what the
ruining your
next thing to
hats.
come out of his mouth is going to be? It's like, well, you can always put on another layer of clothes.
That's what they.
No,
but
you
yeah.
can't.
No,
After
there's
like 3
always
or 4,
a
no, you
limit.
can't. And who wants to put on more layers of clothes?
Yeah.
Oh, it's kind of cold out. Give me a 9th jacket, okay? Give me my snow pants. Give me more layers of socks. Nobody wants that.
But
After
also
3
you-
or 4, who needs more than 4 layers of clothing?
I mean,
Oh.
when it's like
What about
Me?
Get Tough?
5
What
degrees?
happened to Get Tough,
But again,
Mick?
it's different because the heat doesn't hurt. The cold
hurts. Oh, yeah.
There's physical
Cold kills.
pain.
Not if you grow
cold
up.
kills
heat-
more than the heat.
The heat will wear you out, right?
That's true.
You're tired. You're exhausted. Maybe you get a little loopy, right? I went golfing the last
Yeah.
week for first time forever.
Yeah.
100
Good for
degrees
you.
out.
Good for you, Rudy.
12th hole. All of a sudden, I'm like, whoo!
It's hot.
I'm feeling a little dizzy.
I'll have a water or a
Yeah.
beer.
but it didn't hurt.
Right.
I'm
I don't like
Googling the
pain.
difference between, I'm seeing over more than 600 deaths a year from heat stroke in the United
Oh, it's
States.
got to be
I
way
mean-
more from. There's a thing called exposure. When you're out in the cold, you
Well,
die.
This is every one from 1979. So I got to do some math.
So, yeah, while you're doing the math,
Heat's
let me
great.
continue on with this point. You know how long it takes you to get ready, like when in January 15th, to
Yep.
get out in the cold for your day?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just to get dressed, like half an hour maybe.
It's time consuming. Also,
You know how long it took me to throw this wardrobe together? 20 seconds, maybe. Got
You
my flippy
also-
floppies on, my swimsuit, great shirt, out the door.
you also got to think about though too, like where you're at and like what you're doing. Because I remember one time when we were out at the Chiefs game and being told by an intern at the time, like, well, why don't you wear like snow pants and a snow shirt? Because I'm about to go into a press box.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I also want
Like, I
to be
can't-
able to be inside and then go out. Like whenever I got in my car today,
Like I'm lit. Like
the thing on my car's at 109
But
degrees.
guess what? In like 10 seconds, you were cool because you had the AC.
In 10 seconds, in 10
when
minutes.
when it's cold
Oh, it
out,
take 10
no,
minutes?
when it's cold out, it takes 10 minutes to warm up, right? You're still shivering and shaking. It's so cold. Come on,
But
Heat.
get tough, Mick. Get tough. What happened? You
So
used
your
to
take
stand
is
for
you,
something.
you like 20-degree weather. That is your take?
I absolutely prefer it to today. Absolutely. I would much rather it be 20 degrees than 100 or even 90. I would take 20 over 90 and 30 over 80. I'm here for both of those.
Everybody
100%.
can agree, like 60 to 70 is like or 50 to 70 is probably
50
the
to
ideal
70 is all great.
temperature.
God,
But-
no, not 50.
50 is great.
Let's
I can-
start at 70.
I can live with 50 if there's no wind. Now if there's wind, now we got problems.
What do you set your
But,
temperature
like,
at
yeah.
inside? Do you set it at 50?
No, but if I
set it
could
at,
get
like,
it down to 50,
60,
I'd be tempted by
He
it.
probably. I'm
No,
betting you're a 62 man with the windows open.
It is in the winter.
Probably.
With windows, I will open the windows in the winter occasionally to get some fresh air in. But it's 72 to 74 on the thermostat during the summer. That's where I'm at right now. 72 to 74. If
Really?
it's up,
That
if it's up
surprises
in the,
me because I feel like that'd be way too hot. But also, like it's like we.
Oh, well, I'm in the nude.
See, that's the thing.
100% of the time.
Where I live, it's
Yeah.
our house is even like a little bit hotter than I'd like it to be. But
Yeah.
you know what we're not doing? We're not spending money.
Right,
So
sure.
I'll sweat a little bit inside to save $30, $40 at the end of the month.
I open all of the windows and I'm fully in the nude, and then it's sort of, it's a fun show for the neighbors, and I'm at my peak body temperature, which is at 72 degrees.
You also do have a very open house.
It's
Very
true, which
open.
also makes it
also
hard.
do have a very good body.
Thank you. Thank you. That's what the neighbors.
Everybody wants to see
That's
it.
what the neighbors keep saying. Is they keep coming up and just saying, "Listen, could you actually just turn it up a little bit? I'd like to see you have a nice glisten," which I will certainly have. Maybe now, certainly by the end of the hour, because it's too hot in this room. Anyway, so I did all the math here. 19,000 Americans have died from cold-related causes since 1979, according to death certificates. That's 41 years. I just went to 2020.
Yeah.
So that goes down to about 463 per year.
Yeah.
Heat stroke, it says, results in more than 600 deaths a year in the United States.
I feel like you're not counting enough deaths on the cold side.
I think the
That's
problem with the
possible,
cold
Because
side.
that makes you sick, right? A lot of times,
That's
or at
the
least
thing. So
makes you more open to being sick.
you're dying of other stuff,
Yeah.
but it was caused by the cold.
You also die of listen.
As a man who has been on the brink of death of a heat stroke before, I have been 19 years old wearing all black at a Warped Tour concert
yeah.
in 110
So
degree
you're
heat.
talking about like football practice or something like that.
No, football practice fine. That was easy.
You think about how
Warped
close
Tour.
we all were to death.
Warped
it probably-
Tour.
Well, maybe not you guys.
No, that's
'cause
a
they
different
were
animal.
wise.
I had 2 days,
Yeah. So well,
and then during camp we had 3 days.
and then in my era,
In my
you
time.
were a pansy if you wanted water, and it
Right.
was one water break per 3-hour practice in the middle, and the water was not cold. They had ice when they brought it down 2 hours ago.
Yeah.
But the 100-degree heat has melted it. I'm like, okay. And you were a pansy if you wanted water. And now they studied like, oh no, okay, we were all close to dying. Then.
Yeah.
Okay.
we were the opposite in the sense that our coach would make us weigh before and after practice, and you would be punished if you lost weight during practice
Oh,
because
you get punished now for
basically
your-
because you weren't drinking enough
in
water.
locker
Like, he
rooms,
wanted to make sure we were hydrated.
They look at your pee color.
Yeah.
Yes.
This
Now,
is what I
you get
agree.
Tom
punished.
Herman.
You get punished like college locker rooms
Yeah.
if your pee's yellow.
If your pee's yellow, you're a terrible human
selfish
being.
teammate.
You should be in prison.
Yeah.
It's you and child murderers. Same,
They
same
wanted
death
our
row.
pee was brown back then.
That's the
what
Tom
they
Herman
wanted.
method.
Your description of the water has given me a sense memory that I have not thought about in a decade now, probably. We had a shed. I played football at Maranatha. There was a shed at the bottom of the hill.
4-man football?
We got
Low touch?
by the end of the year. I think they actually did start going down to no longer playing full team stuff. By the end of
I don't
my
think they
senior
have it
year,
anymore.
I think you're right.
Maranatha.
By
Did the
the end of
coach-
my
Probably 11-man though, right?
the end of my senior year, I think we had 13 active players.
Did the coach
Same
make you
man.
go into the shed whenever you got a concussion?
No,
Is that
but it
is
was
that what that shed
basically
was
it
for?
was basically NFL Street. We were playing both sides of the ball 100% of the time, and special teams. But what I remember that you just brought up was that we would often have those water bottles get filled up, and they would just stay in the shed for like a month,
Yeah.
and you would just drink the water that was in. It would be hot. It would
Yep.
taste like the inside of
Oh,
the
it
water
tasted
bottle.
horrible.
There was definitely some sort of microorganisms in there that probably could have given us all some sort of new disease. And I don't want to ever think about that again. But you've brought it back today. So
One benefit I had was for like drink breaks. It was always our drink breaks always came after individual drills.
Yeah.
So basically, it was each individual coach's decision to decide who would get to go do drinks first. The way it worked for the receivers was we'd all just crowd together. He would just toss the ball up in the air. First person to catch it, you were the first person to go get a drink, and he would just keep doing that. And I would just stand at the back of the pile, just you guys can fight. Everybody's fighting for position.
Yeah.
He tosses it up, and I just reach over, hit it once, like to the outside, and
Tip
then
it
catch
to yourself.
Occasionally, I might like hit it too far, and now we
Yeah.
got to do it again because nobody caught it. But it was my favorite thing about practice because it was just like, yep.
That would be aggressive just in the animal kingdom. You'd be like,
Yeah.
you guys should share your water. I need Beards for a second, though. I need Beards because here I can't have this 2v1
Yeah.
of the heat versus cold thing. Because what I know that Beards and I
Why
share
you
in
feel
common
insecure in your view?
No, I just want an even playing field, you know? I want 50-50 here.
Hey, I'd take you all on like I'm Jon Snow and whatever army that
Do
was.
you not
okay?
love wearing a good hoodie whenever it's just kind of that little crisp air outside?
No, I
You're
don't mind.
a
Sure,
little
like 50
chilly.
degrees, I'm fine. And look, I'm not complaining at 20 degrees. I would just much rather have this than 20 degrees. But yeah, once it's teens or lower, it hurts.
We now go to our resident cold weather and hoodie expert, Beards McFly, on the scene right here. Beards,
Right,
back
it's
out to you.
unfortunately too warm for a hoodie.
It's too damn
Too
hot.
warm.
And
Yeah.
it's not just that the hoodie is good in the cold. It's that a hoodie is a good thing to wear. I feel good wearing a hoodie.
Everybody looks better, I think, in a
You
hoodie.
look good in
Cozy,
it.
Yeah,
comfortable.
unless you're a really good-looking person, shaped well, normal people look good.
and
in
then
a
you
hoodie.
just look good in a hoodie.
Yeah.
That's right.
Then
If
it's
you
that-
already look good, you can look good in a hoodie. And then
right.
whenever you're no longer wearing a hoodie, they're like, God, I thought you were just
you either
look
look
good
good in a hoodie or look better in a hoodie. Those
That's
are the
right.
only two options.
All the curves that you maybe do or don't want people to
Right,
see,
right.
they all just sort of flatten out. Everybody's very cozy. You can throw that hood up. Like the hoodie itself is an argument for the cold weather. Beards, your thoughts?
Also, Mick, you were talking earlier about wearing like 9 different layers of clothing.
Yeah, nobody wants that.
Nobody
do you
does
not-
that.
Do you have bad winter clothing? Is
Yeah.
that your problem here?
Are you wearing 9 Hawaiian shirts
What
on
I
top of
do
each
is-
other?
No, there's degrees in the winter where like it doesn't matter if I have 9 layers on. I'm still gonna be cold because there's always gonna be parts of you that have to be exposed, right? Your face or your hands or
That's what
whatever.
gloves are for.
Huh?
Gloves.
Gloves.
No, I know
Nick.
that, but a lot of times I'm out. My reference is I'm out doing live shots for the damn Chiefs who keep winning January games
That's
now,
also
which
fair.
is such an annoying trend. And I'm out there for 2+ hours for a post game show standing, and I'm on my phone. It's my script a lot of times, and I can't use gloves.
That's understandable. That's
so
fair.
yeah. So and you're standing there, and yeah, I've got my thermals on. I got the heated stuff on. I've got pants on after that, and I'm still cold.
All you need are base layers. Base layers.
I wear long underwear. Was then that not a base
It's
layer?
like super long underwear though.
Huh?
Is base layers a brand?
No, it's
Or are
like
you saying
so
that you're looking for a specific type
when
of
I
base layer?
when I ran the outdoor show that
Is
was
it
on
the stuff
1510.
that like has batteries and you turn on?
No, not quite. It's just really warm underwear, not quite underwear, but just base layer wear stuff.
Yeah,
So it's like
long underwear, right?
a long sleeve shirt or whatever that's a little bit thicker and it's insulated.
Yeah, that's
and
what I wear.
I have one
It's
of
not enough.
I have one of those.
enough.
Get tough, Mick.
All I need in 30-degree weather is that and a hoodie, and I'm good.
Oh, really?
They're
My-
good.
Yeah.
I've got the full hunting gear set up,
Yeah.
like because my dad goes hunting, so I've got everything, and I still hurt so
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah, cold
And
hurts.
part of this is probably because again, because like with you, like generally when I'm outside, it's Chiefs related, and I'm outside for 3-4 hours.
Yeah.
Sure, if I'm gonna be outside, if I'm walking to my car, I'm walking from the car, it's 30 seconds, a minute, fine. But when I was outside for the Chiefs parade for 10 hours,
Yeah.
I almost died on 7 occasions.
Yeah. Your feet.
None of that was cold
Feet get
related, though.
really cold. You
That
double up,
did-
thermal socks, double up, get
Yeah.
your boots on. They're still cold.
The parade did hurt Rudy a lot more than it was hurting me. Like I was very cold. It was unpleasant. We got out there at like 5 or 6 a.m. I think. That was tough. But you definitely were struggling much harder than either me or girlfriend Renee. She was also. I think she was tougher than both of us, which isn't surprising now that I say it out loud.
I'll say I've always been fine with a minute. When it comes to cold weather too, like my mood will change. Like I feel like I'm a pretty not necessarily happy person, but I'm usually like in an okay mood.
Well, you know why? Because I mean, it gets dark at 5.
Yeah, when it's
That changes
cold
my mood.
outside,
It starts
I become
at 5.
I become an angry person.
Why-
I just
why-
start hating the world.
Why isn't everything daylight savings time? Why have we not talked about that?
Let's talk about this.
Only 4 months out of the year are regular time. How is the odd time? Why is standard time 4 months out of 12, and the odd daylight savings 8 now?
So
Just make it all.
First of all,
daylight savings.
here's my offering I'll make in terms of something that gets close to a peace treaty on the temperature thing. If I have to be outside for 6 hours, I would rather it be too hot because my day's bleeped at that point regardless. I am getting home and the first thing I'm doing is trying to put an ice pack inside of my face and then take a shower. But if I am going to be unpleasant for a 5 to 10 minute window or for a car ride, for a drive, I'd rather be cold because then I can be cold in the car and I'll get into an inside place and warm up and be able to wear a hoodie and I can adjust the temperature inside very easily. But I'm also that way if you're in a car for a 15-minute stretch of it being 100 and some degrees, I'm going to get to, let's say, work and already have sweat in my armpits, and I don't want that. That's as far as I'm willing to extend the olive branch.
Okay.
Let's talk about daylight savings time. Beards, do you have opinions on daylight savings time?
It gets dark really early.
All right, Rudy, you can go back over there. We're gonna bring everyone. I wish people could see what our setup is for this hour today. So there are several. I know a decent amount about daylight savings time and the politics that come behind it. It's all politics, Mick. Everything's politics.
Life is politics.
Yeah.
Here's
political theater.
Here's the thing. Here's why it can't just be like that for everybody, because in some cases your time zone, depending on which side of the time zone you're on, daylight savings time or standard time shifts dramatically. So if you're a state that's on one edge of a time zone versus the other edge, your noon looks very different than their noon, even though it's noon in both places. So what we really need, I think, is what I've picked up is that you have. This is going to get wonky. I have two options here. One is the wonky one, and one is the great sort of smoother of all of these issues. One is you let states decide what their time zone situation is going to be. Now the issue is going to
Basically
become
right. Arizona doesn't do it.
Arizona is the outlier. Is there? I think Arizona is the only one that like,
there are parts of Indiana that used to not,
Parts of Indiana.
and now I believe they do. No, I've studied up.
So, but then you could permanently stay there. So at whatever your time would be. So I don't know how this would work for your TV teases at, instead of 7, 8 Central, it's 7 in Florida, 8 in Louisiana, 9 in Kentucky, because they've made whatever choices they've made. That's one option. A lot of moving parts there. Here's the other option. Time zones, over it. Done. Gone. I'm eating lunch at 4 a.m. because that's just what it is. That the sun is in the middle of the sky, straight ahead. It is 0400,
Sure.
and we're all on the same time.
We're on the
So
UTC.
if I'm in Kansas and I eat lunch at noon, in Europe, you should be eating lunch at like 8 p.m. or whatever. That's
Right,
just
yep.
their time
It's,
for lunch.
Yep.
UTC is what Universal Time.
I know Greenwich Mean Time, I think, is that like the...
I think Greenwich and UTC are the same thing.
Maybe. That might, yeah.
I
And
think
so-
they're the same thing essentially, but it is obviously like a universal time that's how you tell like to link up the world, right?
GMT, I think, is 5 hours ahead of us, but like if we take away AMs and PMs, we have to go military time,
Have to go military.
and that's fine because
But wait, some
it
people's
loses all
days,
meaning.
a new day would start at 7.
Sure. Well, it starts at 0700 already. That's a good time to get up.
Or I guess
The
it
day
always
starts
starts
when
at...
the sun rises.
That's right.
Wherever you're at, when the sun rises, the day is started. When it goes down, the day is over.
Well, that's how it is now.
Right.
Yeah, but you
And
still worry
have to
about time.
We just have to reestablish the norms.
Yeah.
The times will still matter. Our show will go from whatever. I'm not going to try to do this math even close to right. But our math is just going to go from
3 a.m. to
21
6 a.m.
from 2100 to 2400 or to zeros or whatever. But we all just reestablish that as the new norm.
Some days, though, for some places, a new day will start halfway through your workday. Is what you're proposing?
No. You mean a new
Day.
solar day?
Yeah.
Like in terms of the
no,
sun coming
just
up?
like if we're all doing, if it's 12 p.m. here and 12 p.m. in Europe,
Yes.
right? It's the same time.
What happens in the middle of our work days right now, Mick? What happens in the middle of our work days?
I don't know.
You usually
like-
take a nap.
We start over. We go through the noon hour and it's 12 o'clock and now all of a sudden it's 1 o'clock. That's not how numbers work. We go from AM to PM and then we
But it
go
doesn't
from
start a new
12
day.
to 1.
It doesn't start a new day.
But the new day,
feels
when
like
does
a
a
new
new
day.
day start?
But it feels like
12 a.m.
At midnight?
Do I have to answer that
But
question?
then the new day, yeah, I mean, that's a fair point now that I'm thinking about it. That's a fair point. I just
I mean,
don't
it's not
think
a perfect plan, but
I think a new day is arbitrary. We do need to have a date, though.
But wait, so you're saying everybody has to be on the same time? We gotta be all different days.
No, so that's also going to be decided by the Greenwich Mean Time.
Greenwich Mean Time has us all at the same time, the same day, all the time.
So
Yes.
it just looks different. At
Yeah.
12 a.m., it's gonna be a new day. In Kansas, that's fine. I'm sleeping. In Greenwich, England, I'm in the middle of my work day.
Yep.
Oh, it's all of a sudden not the 20th anymore. It's the 21st.
No, it's still the time is still, or the date is still the same. It's just where the positioning of the sun is at essentially is different. So again,
you want the time to be all the same, but the days are going to be different.
No, they'll still be the same.
Days are the same.
Everything's the same. It just looks different.
But
right?
it's turning a different day at a different time no matter where you're at.
6 a.m. looks different.
You could be eating dinner. I'm like, oh, it's a new day.
But like 6 a.m. looks different
0600.
here.
You gotta use the military time
0600 looks different here than it's going to look
I
in
know
England.
that.
But it's 0600 in both places.
Right. But
it's May 20th, 0600, both spots. It just looks very different.
Right, exactly. But if it turns, we're going to determine when a new day is going to happen, right?
Yeah.
Say it happens at 12 a.m.
Yes.
It happens
Well,
at
at
0.
That's going to be in the
Greenwich.
middle of a work day for a lot of places.
Yeah,
That's going to be at the beginning of a work day.
We already switched from AM to PM in the middle of the day. I'm just here for my, the end
That's
of
what
my.
I'm saying.
You're
I'm like,
resetting some.
oh,
You're
eating
resetting
lunch.
some.
I'm like, oh, it's a new day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay. That's what I'm saying.
Because new day, that's all societal norms. We're just resetting all of that. And then you know what?
I'm not on board with your anarchy anymore.
You know when this is going to be the coolest? New Year's.
Oh boy.
Because at
We all get it
23:59,
we don't get it together.
Greenwich Mean Time.
You're going to pay for all of this with Bitcoin too, right?
Yes.
This is all the future.
This is.
And your little trading cards that move hologram things.
Yeah, those
you
have
pay
$1,000. Those have crashed.
NFTs are dead.
shocker.
Yeah, NFTs are dead.
NFTs are
Just like we all thought. Hey, I broke even. I'm happy. I got 3 months of radio content out of it. I broke even. It was a good investment.
I did not break even.
And I have a Nikola Jokic highlight. Life's good.
We could all celebrate as a world. I think this would solve all the world's problems. As a world, we could celebrate at what we'll call global midnight, which does sound like a nuclear threat situation. But at global midnight, that's what we'll call, the 23:59 to 0.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think it would be beautiful.
Now the world's just partying together.
Yeah.
Race, religion, none of that matters anymore.
I'm sure.
We're just
That's it.
partying
And instead of
together.
working 9 to 5,
We're just
so
partying
it says it's 5 hours ahead of Kansas City time. So instead of working 9 to 5 on your average work day, we would just work
12 to 10.
from.
Depends on where you're at.
You go back. I'm saying Kansas City. We're going central. Just use
Is
us
Kansas
as the
City
example.
the base? Are we going to stay normal
Just-
and then the rest of the world
No,
goes
no.
wonky?
Greenwich is going to be normal because they claimed it first, I think.
Yeah, they got it first.
So
they're here first.
It's 5 hours ahead of us. So at 9 instead of so 9 a.m.
Should be
our
noon.
time becomes
noon to 10 our time.
I'm moving the other. Is that not right?
No,
they're
we would start our
ahead.
workday at like 4
With the-
a.m.
Right. Our work 9 to 5 would now be 4 to 12.
Oh, yes.
9 to 5
Yes.
is just 4 to 12 now.
Yeah.
It's just 4 to 12. That's the grind. You got to get to work by 4. You get off at 12. You
The
go home.
sun's in the same
Dolly
spot
Parton
the whole
singing a new time.
time.
Working 4 to 12.
Working 4
Exactly.
to 12. All of that.
And honestly, it's a little catchier if you think about it.
It is.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, 9 to 5. Who decided that? I feel like we fixed it.
Royals and Tigers tonight in prime time at 2:10 p.m.
Not PM.
Sorry, 2:10.
14.
14:10.
That's right,
At
14:10.
14:10.
First pitch, 14-10.
Wow.
And it's now
We've
14:11, and they're
wasted
down by
25
9 runs.
minutes.
You're pretty good at time estimate. You want me to click and see what it's been?
25-12, 13, 14, 15.
23, 11, 12.
Oh, well, I'm looking at that clock right there. This says 25.
Oh,
That's not the right.
I was
That's
trying to cheat.
it's close.
That's fine. You did
got
pretty
us.
good.
We talked about time zones and hot weather. Yep.
Yeah.
20.
Hey, these are the things the people of this country want to know. These are the
I
big
feel-
problems we have.
This
Keep
is the
telling
thing.
ourselves that.
If we could
We
solve
solve these
if
two
we could solve
things.
some major problems like this, we could focus on other stuff.
Mhm.
Let's air condition
Take your first
the
step
globe,
before you take your second.
and then let's fix time zones.
Tries to take that second step before you take the first, and you
Time
fall
zones
down.
are weird. Like, there's a little sliver of western Kansas that is in the mountain time zone. Little parts of it.
That's
Really?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that.
That's
like
like
Syracuse, Kansas is in, and that would suck in that, like, it gets darker earlier there.
Mhm.
Whereas you go like 5 miles east and it's an hour later.
That's how Kentucky is. It's both Central and Eastern.
It's also a weird chunk of Western Kansas where it doesn't
follows the line for a little bit, then it juts out and doesn't. Yeah.
That was some like town hall meeting that
it's like they followed an old like Lewis and Clark map or like what
that's
Kansas
right.
used to look like.
Is there a mountain? Is this a mountain range or something that because up north above Kansas, it also cuts through parts
You
of.
heard of the Rockies?
Is that the Rockies there? I don't see it on the map.
Is that a mountain
farther
range
over?
there?
Sorry, do the Rockies go through Nebraska? Because if so, I'm
uh,
legitimately learning
no.
something today.
You might be
west
talking
of
about the Flint Hills.
I'm just trying to
It's not
figure
the
out what
Flint
this
Hills.
wonky ass lines here.
Oh,
I don't know
what that
why.
one
I don't know why
is.
they just couldn't
Yeah.
take it down the border of
just
those
go down the
states.
state lines. Yeah. Feel like that'd be easier.
I'm gonna blame it on the Flint Hills.
Did you know that? Hold on. According to this map, did you know that not all of Arizona does not observe daylight savings
Yeah,
time?
now it looks like it.
It's
There you
just
go.
a big.
And look, well, okay, maybe that was the part of Indiana that didn't do it. See, it chunks out there
It does.
to basically probably get the Chicago suburbs. Keep
Super
that on the
weird.
same time.
'Cause that'd be really weird if half of Chicago was on one
Yeah,
and half of Chicago was on the other.
I'm sure there
That'd
is.
throw a lot of people off.
I'm sure there is an actual answer to this that I don't care to actually know because this world is a better one for us to live in. But do think for a second about how bonkers time zones are
Mhm.
when we could have all just been on
Greenwich.
one clock.
Yeah, I kind of like it better this way. Do you want to know the toughest math I've ever done?
Yes.
And it's because of time zones?
Yes.
So, who was the first Japanese pitcher to play for the Royals? Was
For the Royals.
Japanese player to
Oh,
play for
was
the
it
Royals?
was it
Was it-
Aoki?
No,
Was
it
there
was
somebody
before that.
before Aoki?
Nomo, right? Was it Nomo?
Oh yeah, I totally
What
forgot.
year was that?
Hideo Nomo played for the Royals.
And
I forget
so
about
he
that.
was tail end of his career. He
Yeah.
was still a huge thing.
Was it any of these players?
It would have been Nomo. Yeah. So
I
can't remember
totally
what
forgot
year,
he was a Royal.
but he's still a huge thing in Japan
2000
to where like he has his own media brigade follow him. Imagine it's like the Yankees
Yeah.
media party. It's
Mhm.
about that size. And so we were down for spring training for the Royals in whatever year that would have been. I don't know, 09, something like that.
What'd you say, Rudy? What are you guessing?
2008 was when he was a Royal.
08. So we're down there, and we're working with a Japanese TV station. And so we had to do their live shots in the middle of the night because obviously we're not on the same time zone. There's daylight over there.
we
not
could
daylight here.
fix this.
And so when you do satellite live shots, you have to speak in Army time. So we had to adjust to that. And then we also had to adjust to Japanese time. What time is it their Army time?
Mhm.
And then we were booking through our place in Kansas City, which is Central Time, but we're in Arizona, which when we first got there, okay, was 2 hours back,
Right?
right? And then
And
after
while
that
you're there.
was 3. Sorry, because they changed the daylight savings time,
Yeah.
right?
Mid-spring training.
Mid-spring
Yeah.
training. And so what was it? It was either 1 hour and then 2,
That's right.
and
It's one of the two.
and then it changed in the middle of it all, and so we had to do all that math each time to make sure the people in Japan knew we were talking on the same time that we were going to send this
Yeah.
video, and it was hard, and we didn't always do it right. Japan time,
Understandable.
military time, daylight savings time, adjusting to Arizona daylight savings time because they were on California time during daylight savings time because they didn't observe it.
It's always Arizona's fault.
The Royals were
He had a 3-year break in between the Rays. He played with the Rays in 05 and then the Royals in 2008.
and yeah, that was
Yep.
his last major
Yeah.
league stint. I
His
didn't know that.
Japan team was the Kintetsu Buffaloes.
It was.
Japanese team have better nicknames than
They have
us.
some fun ones.
The Yakult Swallows.
Swallows, I like.
Pretty
It's
good.
the what swallows?
Yakult.
I thought you said the occult swallows. I was like, that
Yeah.
sounds very
Pretty close.
sounds very dark. Let's take a break. Whenever we come back, we'll see if we have any more weather or time zone related things to talk about.
How are we going to
Otherwise,
solve the world this time?
I feel like we solved the world in less than half an hour here, and so doing it just a little more next segment shouldn't be a big deal.
Working my ass off on a day off.
Want more Almost Entirely Sports? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 Facebook page.
From casual duffers to those aiming for a spot on the Pro Tour, golfers are hitting the links as never before. Get the most from your green fees, cart rentals, and that slick new sand wedge you bought by making sure Bushnell rides along as your digital caddy. Bushnell's slope-enabled Tour V5 ship is the golf laser rangefinder everyone's talking about this summer. And the Phantom 2 GPS helps manage your course approach from pin 1 to 18. Visit bushnellgolf.com to learn more and see the full lineup of Bushnell Golf products.
Hey folks, it's Lebo here for CertaPro Painters, my favorite painting company. I've been working with them for years, inside our home and outside. They always nail it. Perfect every time. Now, why is that? Well, each CertaPro Painters business is independently owned and operated, so they really care about our community. Your satisfaction is important to them. You can start the process of getting a bid right now by logging on to CertaPro.com. That's Certa with a C. You can schedule a free estimate and check out all the services CertaPro Painters has to offer. Spring is here, so it's definitely time to get on their exterior painting schedule. We just got through a winter with plenty of snow and those extremely cold temps. Weather like that can take a toll on your paint, especially around your windows. You've got to protect what's likely your biggest investment, your home. CertaPro Painters can help you with that, just like they did with me.
You're listening to Almost Entirely Sports
I don't like any seafood or anything with seafood in it.
with Joshua Brisco.
What about catfish?
Oh my God, guys.
Salmon?
No.
Rudy said salmon.
I like a nice
If it lives in the
Chipotle
water,
salmon.
nothing.
What about an albacore tuna? Chicken of the sea.
Oh my God. Let's keep going. Yeah.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Second segment with Mich Shaffer, 41 Action News. It's a day off. You wouldn't know it by following him around with his media posse. What's the most people you've ever had just following you around just as like a...
For my
foreign
family, that's
thing?
it.
That
Yeah,
makes sense.
And they
I'm
always
telling you
do, 'cause
earlier-
I am the fastest, one of the fastest walkers you've ever met.
I buy that. That makes sense.
I'm
Sprints,
such a
never,
slow
no, not
walker.
fast.
Mm-mm.
I always did distance.
Yeah.
You know what? Why you do distance in track is because you're slow. You can't do the 100. Everybody wants to do the 100. Sorry, you're not fast enough. 200, 400? No, sorry. Mile it is, I guess. That's where they put the guys who aren't fast. And so, but I am a damn fast walker.
Yeah, you've got fast walking energy.
And so the opposite is true. My wife was a sprinter in high school and college. She was a state champion in the 100, the 200, and the 400. She was named an All-American sprinter in college. She's the slowest walker I have ever seen in my life. And it drives me nuts. And the more it drives me nuts, the slower she walks. And when we get divorced, I should have said if or when, it's going to be over that.
That seems to
On
really
vacation,
rankle you.
I'll be a block ahead, and I'll just turn around and just slump my shoulders. Really? Really? I'm trying to walk slow.
Why doesn't she just sprint, everyone? Like, if she just sprinted every 30 seconds.
Great question.
You guys could be in sync again.
Yeah. Maybe if I tried to run.
You'd actually get slower. Yeah.
Have you ever, is this going to be something like in your older age where you like get into the speed walking tournaments and everything? That might fulfill your competitive spirit at some
No,
point?
but you know what I am at? Like this January, like every January, like, oh, I got to lose some weight, right?
Yeah.
Just do nothing but pour on calories over the break. And so I basically, did like the incline on the treadmill and like did the speed walking instead of running. I'm like, I told myself, you know what? I'm in my zone more here. I'm in fat burning zone. I don't know if that's the case, but I'm to the point where you know what? A walk would do me good.
Yeah.
10 years ago, I'd be like, what does walking do?
Walking's
You
not
got
gonna
to
do anything.
sprint for a few miles, all right, to have even a chance of losing weight. Now it's like, well, you know, walk
Nice
the
to do a
dog
squat.
today. And then,
Yeah.
man, I look a little thinner. Yeah, a
pretty
walk does
good.
me good. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm at that point in my life. It's
10
sad.
pounds on this walk around the block. I'm feeling like I'm in my zone right now.
That's where I
Went for a
was
walk today with my
about
wife.
10 years
We
ago.
went. It was a walk run. We went about 4 miles. Ran about a mile and a half of it.
Wait, so how did that go?
Intermittent training.
Huh?
back and forth.
Were you walking and she was
Great
running?
question. I was. It's like if we're not on vacation and it's like for a purpose, she's got a decent average walking speed.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's gonna annoy me and like we've got to get to this ball game on time, then well, we're barely putting one foot in front of the other, boys.
That's gonna be the reason you guys get divorced. It's gonna be because of that.
Oh yeah, we've had some knockdown dragouts.
About
Let me tell you about Chicago 07.
I would like to know.
Oof. Oof. She nearly got left there.
I'm gonna just tell this to Beards and Rudy. My strategy right now is that if I keep not saying anything, maybe Mick will actually tell us the story.
We'll just go
and I
with it,
just want
yeah.
to know.
Because the story was I was walking fast, she wasn't. I got pissed. She got pissed and I got pissed. Yeah, that was it.
Chicago's fun.
Nice.
It is.
It's crazy the city's split into two different times.
I know, right?
Really seems like they could have probably avoided that.
Now I understand why there's a north side and a south side.
Whenever I was asking about the mobs of people that will follow you along, I was thinking, do you have a weird or a good hey, Mich Shaffer story?
Probably.
How many times has someone? Let me ask you this then. Let me ask you this way: how many times has somebody gone like, "Hey, Nick, I watch you every night.
All the
I
time.
love your work."
Nick and Mitch. I get recognized all the time. It's just not always the right name.
That's what. Yeah, that has to be. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it doesn't really make sense. Like they should probably. You ever get Mike? Is Mike ever, or is it always Nick or Mitch?
I've probably gotten some Mikes, but it's usually Mitch and then Nick in that order. So yeah, I'm sure I have some funny ones.
I don't want you to work too hard to try to find it. We've already done pretty good radio.
There was
so
that time
far.
you almost threw a man into the ocean.
That's right.
That was just a year
That's
ago.
right.
Yeah,
I don't think you recognized me.
Yeah.
Oh, he's a huge
Otherwise,
fan.
he would have known.
He's
He's coming for a hug. Actually, is what he was. He just wanted a selfie.
He was.
Yes.
All right. Well, do you want me to ask about a sports thing?
Sure, absolutely.
You know what? Let me ask. Were you out in the sweltering heat at mini camps at any point over this last stretch of time that you have been on the show?
Thursday, I was supposed to be out there yesterday, but they banged practice, or at least they banged it for the media.
Okay.
And I was actually happy in that, I was going to have to come in at 10 a.m.
Yeah.
And then,
it was an early one yesterday at first.
Yeah, and then do all the Zooms, stay out there, do some stand-ups, do the 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock show, 6 o'clock show, and then stick around to the 10 p.m. show. Would have been a long day. So, shorten my day. I was fine with that. So, I was not out there. I saw a lot of the video.
Yeah.
I heard all the Zooms.
So many Zooms.
So many Zooms.
A lot of Zooms.
Was there one singular thing out of the entire Zooms over mini camps, both mandatory and voluntary, where you went, oh, yeah, you know what? That right there, that gets my wheels turning. One thing. Was there one thing?
Probably not. If it was anything, it came from Kelsey or Frank Clark or something like that. Seren yesterday made fun of my hat, and I didn't think it was my hat. And a lot of times, Lebo and I and Seren and I will text during the Zooms, maybe making fun of other people's questions on the Zooms or just other stuff.
If I could just get a spectator spot on that group chat,
you want to be a part of that? Yeah,
I'd appreciate that.
And so, Tyrann Mathieu, I don't know if you saw his Zoom yesterday, but he's got this weird stocking cap.
Yeah.
100 degree, and it's rolled up.
He's been rocking that for a little while now.
Yeah.
It's kind of a
and
strange,
so,
unique
listen,
choice.
He could pull it off.
Yeah.
If I wore it, everybody would laugh their ass off, right? But he could pull it off because he's Tyrann Mathieu. And so I'm there. It's morning time, 9:45. And so I've got T-shirt on and my Titleist golf hat on. A little flat bill, whatever. And Seren texts me, worst hat ever. I'm like, Tyrann's? I know, right? He's like, no, yours. I'm like, and so I'm looking at myself in the Zoom, like, what's wrong with this hat? He goes, because looks like you just stole Corey Anderson's wardrobe. I'm like, I cannot afford Corey Anderson's wardrobe, so I would have to steal it. So that's what came to me from Zoom yesterday.
It's like Seren was in the room here with us for a second there. No, yours in Seren. You nailed it. It's a pitch perfect impression.
And then a couple days ago, I was driving to my son's baseball game with my dad in the car. He had come up for a couple days. And we're listening to Travis Kelce's Zoom, and they go, "Let's go to Mich Shaffer." And
hey, freeze right there for a second. Did your heart for a second go oh bleep?
Maybe a nanosecond.
Okay.
Then I realized what was going on.
Okay.
I knew we had two people on the call, Aaron and Mackenzie, and Mackenzie was probably at my desk.
Yeah.
And the Zoom said Mich Shaffer, and sure enough, eventually over a few seconds, she's like, "Oh, it's Mackenzie," and so, but. Immediately, let's go to Mich Shaffer. And so I look at the radio. I'm like, Travis, hey, Travis. And my dad was the most confused person on the planet at that point. He looks at me. He looks at the radio. He looks at me. He goes, is there someplace you should be? And then we hear, no, it's Mackenzie. I'm like, no, Dad, it's Mackenzie. Well, why did I say your name? I'm like, well, on Zoom calls, you have your name up there, and oh, okay. I think he ended up getting it, but it was really funny. I just started yelling at the radio.
That's awesome. What a good on your toes for that moment.
My toes for that one.
I can confuse my dad really well here. That's fabulous.
I was thinking he would go along with the joke, but no, he was confused.
Genuinely confused.
That's what 70 will do to you.
Yeah, no kidding. Look at what I can only guess early 60s have done for you.
Yeah, I know.
It's kind of close to your dad's age, I guess. Probably not quite. The freeze in the car thing. I haven't. Beards and Rudy could both speak to this more recently, but I haven't actually had to hit a legal ID in several years. which is, the bottom of the hour, especially for live programming, a football game. You're listening to the NFL on Westwood One. Let's pause for 10 seconds for station identification here on your home for the NFL. Hit the button, and then it's Sports Radio 810 WHP Kansas City, and blah, blah, the power of sports. For a long time, hearing that throw to the pause there was a Pavlovian response. Like if I didn't hit that button, I might as well just throw myself off the balcony. Like my job was done. Jason Justice, an incredibly harsh ruler, iron fist, no velvet glove, just the iron fist.
This is why I've worked on jumping to that tree.
Yes.
So in preparation of when I have to, instead of being thrown off, I make it to the tree and I'm safe.
And then you can shimmy down and you can escape. But if anytime, I imagine for the rest of my life, if I am in the car listening to a live sporting event and I hear, let's pause 10 seconds for station identification, for a second, for a one count, I freeze up and I freak out. Just like I'm sure it's 3 heartbeats, but it's just pa pa pa, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I'm
a little different, but like I perk up because I'm always thinking, are they going to remember to hit it, or how long is it going to? I get really curious to see because I've run it more often than Josh, and I've had those moments where maybe it took me like I hear it pause, but I didn't hear them as a toss, so for like a second or two, I'm like wait, and then I'm just like, oh, I got to fire that, or I get to it a second late. So every time I'm just like, are they going to get it?
Yeah, I do the exact same thing. I just listen, and then if they don't do it, then I look at who the schedule was, and then I go, oh, you dummy, you dummy. I don't tell them that, but just in the car to myself. Also, my fiance does the same thing now because having worked, having, lived with me and all this, and having to listen to the radio in the car with me whenever my car got AM radio, she does the same thing.
I hate the delay whenever they toss from the studio to somebody out live.
Oh yeah,
I just cringe. I'm like,
and you don't know if you're still on or not, or like has something.
Well,
happened.
even if I'm watching, right?
Yeah.
If I'm watching, because if you're out there, you immediately start talking, but you don't realize there's a delay. You realize it, but you don't experience it. So I'm like, oh my God, it's taking forever. They must be on a satellite. Or, oh no, that's a TVU backpack. That's a longer one. Oh no, it's a microwave truck. He talked right away.
Yeah.
Or if you ever want to know, if they talk right away, it's on tape.
Yeah.
If they talk right away, it's on tape.
I didn't think about that.
If there's not a 2-box, if it's like just me tossing right out to Haley, and it goes from me to Haley, and she talks right away, that's on tape.
That's on tape. That makes sense.
I was indoctrinated to this from a very young age because my mom was a TV anchor. I know this never has come up. I know. Yeah, it's bizarre. This event, I've mentioned that on the show before.
A great icebreaker for her.
I just want to mention it around Mick.
I don't know if you need to break the ice anymore.
Not anymore.
Yeah, that seems true.
Breaks them up.
But I think it was mostly. I think it was either in Wichita or Topeka. I think it was in Wichita for the most part.
Listen,
I don't like this. But so because it was all before because then I got born and I ruined her life. Right?
Yeah.
Is what she tells me. I would give her half a glass of wine.
You came into my life. You were in my life.
What was her on-air name? Was it Michelle Brisco?
Say that again.
Was her on-air name Michelle Brisco?
No, because she wasn't married yet.
What was it?
Thompson. Thompson, but it's pronounced Thompson.
That's how Thompson's spelled.
Yeah. I was
very confused. That's Thompson.
You didn't have a strong reaction to it, so I was like, I gotta keep talking while Mick thinks if he knows anyone named Thompson
spelled without an H. I mean,
yeah. I mean, maybe that's probably
so
right.
Weird.
That you would specify the spelling.
Smith. It's got
the S.
It's got the S and then the M. Yeah. Okay, so Michelle Thompson, I will look her up.
Well,
you bet I will.
There's got to be clips on YouTube.
Got to be some clips.
There are pictures from like a yearbook that I found on Facebook. I was looking for another picture a couple days ago, which brought this back up.
Oh yeah.
She used an emoji on Facebook to cover. It's a class of, and then she put an emoji over the year. So I don't know. I don't even know what year it was.
Yeah, that's smart.
But basically, as long as I can remember, My mom will anytime the TV is on, and then we'll go out live to our correspondent Beards McFly, and then it's just pause.
Yeah.
Pause. She'll go cue him. Somebody cue him.
No, he's cute.
Give him the cue.
He's cute. It's just a delay.
It's probably the delay. Sometimes if it's a real long pause, then she'll start yelling. At
What I do is I get ballsy and I'll start talking before the other person's done.
Wow. What's your you know what? You gonna do a little role play, Mick?
Sure.
With me?
I mean, I can think of who we'd rather role play with.
We'll go out to Arrowhead Stadium for our reporter live at the scene there, Mich Shaffer, 41
Thanks
Action.
very much, Josh. Love your show and your mom. Yeah. But it comes across much smoother, much less of a delay.
Beards, I'm going to need you to move to answer this question, but should we just make this our last segment here?
Sure.
Excellent. So
yeah.
I was going to throw to break and then have you throw to break. We'll all
We're
cut each
talking
other
about
off.
your mom too much here.
It's a lot of... Yeah, I agree. I agree. It is too much.
Well, I mean,
I couldn't
too
agree
much
more.
not to, like, dismount with her. Well, I mean...
One of you guys finish the show so I can go home? I'd like to go home. Here, Beards. Here you go. No, here you go. One of you guys finish the show. You guys have about a minute left.
A minute left?
One of you guys can do it. You got a minute. You got a minute. I'm out. Saying goodbye.
And Josh is leaving the studio.
Yeah. Bye, Michelle.
I think we still got like another 40 seconds.
Okay, yeah. Anyway, I can't wait to meet her someday.
The fact that they weren't able to find you in Tampa, it's a little.
Who's that?
Josh's mom.
I know.
She's down in Tampa.
Probably out
Yeah.
hunting every night.
Probably.
Yeah.
It's just it's a little disappointing because like the best TV shot would have been you doing a report and then, after you chuck the guy into the ocean, Josh's mom walks in.
I kiss her.
And, yeah.
Oh, you weren't going to say that?
I wasn't,
Okay.
but that's better actually. Yeah, that's better. I think
Josh is
that's
now
what
leaving
I
the-
want.
Oh, no, he's coming back in.
Oh, wow, look at that. We're all out of time. Bye, Mom.
Bye, Michelle.
You're listening to Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco on Sports Radio 810 WHB.